Today's Sunday session is brought to you thanks to the fine folks at More Beer. Visit them right now at morebeer.com.
I want people to believe in me, and I want people to believe in me when they taste my beer. That's what it's about.
You mean you laid underneath it and tried to
Put his tongue up the bung. I like to actually scoop up the yeast and look at it.
7 o'clock came real early that next morning.
Yeah, man. Thanks for dumbing that down for us. You did an awesome job. It's all about food and beer.
Punch me in the junk.
Man, that thing was thick.
The point is just beat it like it's your dick.
I like to smell it afterwards.
Are you being sarcastic right now?
Yeah. Bring your body armor.
I ran into my jungle once on a ball valve in a kettle.
That's a true happy ending.
Now, live from the Brewing Network studios in Northern California, this is the radio program for home brewers, craft brewers, beer lovers, and beer geeks. It's your only source for live beer radio that brings expert brewers together with, well, expert drinkers. This is the radio program with a head on it. This is The Session.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the program. You're listening to The Session here live on the Brewing Network. I'm your host this week, Justin Crosley. I feel like I've been here a while. Oh, wait, I missed a week, didn't I?
You missed a week.
When you go like once every 6 weeks, when you go once every 4 weeks, it seems like
right.
back to back.
It's hard to keep up now.
The first day was just like a day. Yeah. The second day was more like a week.
Right.
It's been 30 seconds. That's quite a while for you.
Yeah, I need a break. Yeah, man, it's good to have you back, Justin. We missed you. You're missed in the show, and like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm planning a whole long time away, so
yeah, I saw that, and
but it's for work. It's that road trip.
You've earned it.
Well, then, great.
It's the BN on the road.
Nice.
Been waiting for that for years.
Yeah, being on the road. Being on the road. I get it. Yeah.
That's how it's spelled.
You want to be on the road. I understand.
I'm ready.
Yeah. You gotta wrap that thing.
Yeah.
You gonna take the RV?
I am going to take the RV. Well, I'm not sure about that yet. I get the RV back on Friday from getting the window fixed and seeing if they can fix all of the leaks, which they told me they did and can, but we'll see. And if that's the case, I'm gonna take it. We got to see if this whole video thing works before I go.
Gallivant.
Who can buy an RV right now? So I'm just, the plan is take it,
formulating,
hit the road, hit a bunch of beer spots, shoot video everywhere we go, and when the RV falls apart, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Talk to Jamil about it. He, of course, it's his old RV, and he agrees. You just drive it till it catches fire again, or falls apart entirely.
Right.
I feel like that's the only way to really go, like to put the RV out of its misery.
Yeah, it has to go down working.
Oh, yeah,
go down hard
for sure. And then just spray paint on the side like abandoned.
It lived a good life.
Yeah.
My dad was pretty ghetto. I know how to do it. You take the license plate off, you grind off the VIN numbers, and you just leave it on the
just
side
leave it alone.
of the road.
Right.
Or you torch it, whatever.
Yeah.
Wait to get out in the middle of the desert and just.
Well,
now no one's going to believe me if it happens on its own. Everyone's going to be like, "Oh, it caught fire, huh?"
Yeah. I feel like you can just get rid of it for $100 in the like if you're in the desert, any one of those weird desert towns.
Yeah,
$100 to take this RV. Sure, I'll take this RV. Convert to bird. You can cook meth in this thing.
Those are my people, by the way.
Sorry, I should be respectful.
Probably more even. I mean, the thing if it lived in one place, it'd be fine.
Well, that's what I mean. Like those go. Yeah, we can like push it around my gas station, and that's where I'll live with me and Heather and my twin kids.
Yeah.
Or if they're looking for an addition on their double wide, they just park it next to their house.
Bust
his door down.
Do a Kool-Aid man through the wall, and you're done.
Put a couple of wooden pallets in between the two.
Right.
You got a triple wide.
Wow. Bev, are you getting all this down?
Yeah. So I'm here for now and gone for later is basically what's happening. I think that's all going to start right around the National Homebrewers Conference, as a matter of fact. HomebrewCon. I'll be driving up to Portland, and we'll do the conference, and and then I'm just going to keep right on going. It should be a good time.
You should stock up on beer when you get to Portland.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good first stop, don't you think?
Yeah, to fill up.
Yeah.
Well, you're going brewery to brewery, so you probably won't need much.
I mean, that's the plan. We're on a budget, so I'm hoping to buy food and not beer.
You're going to panhandle for everything else.
Got to buy some fuel, things like that.
Good smart move,
we're going to put it all on YouTube, by the way. And as a matter of fact, we're YouTubing live for the first time tonight. So hello to our YouTube audience. Nice to see you. We're experimenting with different streaming formats. We've been over on experimenting with Facebook Live for the last month or so, which did okay for us. I kind of like it. But because we're going to move all this video content over to YouTube when we hit the road, I thought, why don't we do some live streaming over there and see how it goes? And let me have a look here. Oh, yeah.
And it's actually working.
A couple people watching.
That's cool.
So that's good fun. Plus, then it'll all live on our YouTube page, I think, after we do this live stream. It'll save there, and people can go back and watch the shows there. So, in the past, we were only over on live stream, which is great. It's a great, format, has done well for us, but it's just that nobody sees it over there.
Right.
It's a great place to...
It's one of those things.
It's a great place to archive video, and when we do our big events, like I'll be doing the awards here pretty soon for the World Beer Cup in Nashville. Live stream's great because it's just a perfect, stable platform, knock on wood, so that everybody can go view. But look, the times they are changing.
It's true.
So,
I like how they're changing back to YouTube.
Right. Yeah. They've come full circle.
Yeah.
Soon it'll be back on AOL.
Right.
I mean, could happen.
You can send away for transcripts of the show by sending in $5.
Yeah. YouTube's gotten really good. I've been messing with it a lot lately, getting ready for this road trip. So figured we'd check out this live stream over there. So thanks for tuning in on YouTube if you're there right now. We appreciate it. We got a great show for you tonight. A little change of gears for us. It's not like we don't cover professional brewing topics here, but this one is it's really focused on professional brewers. We're talking about California employment law and how it relates to brewers. So, for those of you who are always going to be a home brewer, and I do apologize, it might be the most boring show you've ever listened to. But we have a pretty wide audience, and a lot of you are professionals. And, of course, we couldn't do one for every state. I could hear the comments already. Well, it's California beer law.
Yeah, I'm in Utah, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but you know what? You're going to get the gist of it, and I hope you just understand. It's not like I could have 50 lawyers on one program to cover each state's law. And
that wouldn't work. Well, I imagine most people listening either are a brewer, own a brewery, or know somebody is one or the other. One of those other two guys. So you're all it'll be something you might want to know a little bit about.
Yeah.
I think
you
it's
can go in and say,
anyway.
hey, what you saw you just do is illegal.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like if you go to, like I, for instance, might go in a brewery and say, I'm going to volunteer today. And they go like, well, no, you really can't. We're comp won't allow us to do, if you should not feel rejected. You should actually know that, oh, yeah, that's right, I knew that.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what we're doing tonight. We've got Joel Van Parys on the program with us. He is a legal professional in California employment law, and he's going to talk to us about how that relates to breweries. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. We've got Kim Shimke in the studio with us today.
Hi.
I think she came because apparently this is her other job. She does employment law.
Well, he doesn't make.
I never tell you guys my job title because you wouldn't know what it means.
What does it mean? Fancy pants. Let's go.
What is it?
I'm a supervising organization development specialist.
I have no idea what that
You
is.
supervise organizational development. It's easy. Come on.
Is that human resources?
Why are you woman-splaining things for us?
I mean, why is that the title? Why is if what you do is employment law, why isn't it like employment specialist?
Because it's human resources is broken up into two pieces, and it's the admin side, which is like benefits and payroll. You know what? You want to be nice to your HR people because we are your advocates and allies.
You're not our
so
we don't have HR, so don't worry about it.
Bevo's our HR person.
We're not nice to her.
I
am neither your advocate nor your ally.
Smart. You don't want them to be your liability.
I'm yours, Kim. Nobody else's.
Yeah.
Anyway, you do that.
Yeah, and then there's strategic HR. So that's like professional development. That is strategic planning, stuff like that. So it's more about how to keep the organization holistically healthy and happy and functioning.
Well, see, that sounds really interesting.
Under the HR umbrella.
Yeah, that first part sounded really boring, but could you switch jobs?
I don't do.
Right, could you switch jobs and do the interesting one?
I am certified.
Like the fun one and the one that everyone wants to hear about?
That's the one that I do.
No, the other one.
Oh, the boring one.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that, though?
That's more mine.
It's more fitting, I think, for you.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Yeah, we didn't ask. Sorry.
right, well,
but
welcome.
you're doing great.
So glad we did it. I mean, we did. Now we
I've
don't.
been promoted 3 times in 6 years, so I think I'm doing okay.
Only 3?
All right.
That's
We'll
weird.
help you there. You know, to train your arm. Good job.
Yeah.
I know it seems weird when you don't know what a promotion is. You've never experienced one, but 3 and 6 years.
No,
Is
I just do a lot of lateral moves. And it's fine.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Hey, it's all right.
That's
It's a
quite
strategy.
believable. You have I can tell you're really good at what you do.
I love what I do.
And you love
it's
it.
actually
Well, that's
really
even better.
intriguing. Yeah, and just this past week in San Francisco, I was sent to the CLA's employment law conference.
I saw that on social media.
So,
You drank your lunch or something, didn't you, or something? Oh, no, just kidding.
Hey, you'd have to just to get through that, wouldn't you?
it's actually really interesting.
I think it's required to get through the door in the conference. You have to be at least half cocked to get in.
They have a breathalyzer.
The stuff goes into like investigations. So when people break employment law and it goes to court, there's like investigations and paper trails, all of that. It's actually fascinating.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit too high level for you guys.
So-
I get
no,
it.
no, no. I
No,
watch,
that's what it is.
Checked
High
out.
level. That's
I know,
exactly what it is.
I know a lot about law. I watch cable news. There's a lot of law there.
See?
So is the conference teaching you what documents to burn
Yeah.
in an
Yeah,
investigation?
and,
is that what it is?
What
Don't
to
use
never
email.
document.
Don't use email.
What
Right.
you say face to face and never put in an email or a text.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
Because text can still be used as like a court document.
Sure.
Sure.
So it's all common sense. I could be whatever, an advocate for commercial
you'd think,
responses
yet
or whatever.
HR people and laws still have to exist.
Huh.
And California has the strictest laws of any state.
Right.
Right, which is kind of why I'm excited that our guest is central to California law, because for that reason.
So we can hear all the worst of the worst.
Right, the worst of the worst, and then every other person in every other state can go, God damn, I got it great.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with this. I'm sure there's a fair amount of crossover, but
Yeah.
Sure.
yeah.
I can have my brewery employees work 24 hours a day, and it's fine in my state.
I am here to work. Where do you live? I am here to work.
Now, are you going to stay then for the show and help us with the interview?
No,
Kim
she's
Chimpy?
got to go,
No, she's
I
gotta
think.
go.
Yeah.
She sounds real busy.
Well,
Yeah.
clearly I'm basically a lawyer now that I attended this conference.
Right.
So I feel like I am like the second professional that's
All
going to
right.
be a
Well,
part
you
of
be a
this.
backup
Shit.
here.
Do you want to try out this chair? And I can find something to do. I'm
You just
sure.
want a reason not to be in that chair anytime. So,
The open road, she calls.
I mean, you must be desperate if you're offering it to me.
Here I am trying to elevate your situation. I'm
Women in the
trying to-
workforce.
This is going to be your 4th promotion in 6 years.
Right. And you're first on the Brewing Network.
And all I get is this. I try to offer some support, some encouragement.
You're holding your gender back right now, Kim, and I don't appreciate that as a feminist myself.
As a feminist?
Yeah.
How did this get on gender?
Wow.
I don't know.
jump
Everything's
around.
about
I
gender.
don't see
know.
gender.
You don't see.
Beardy's in
right.
It's
You
the
don't
most
see
David
gender.
Bowie content ever.
Actually, it's a good point. He just doesn't see. So
I wasn't going to go
it's the
that far.
only
Period.
time that's ever true when someone says, I don't see gender.
Yeah. I
I'm blind.
also don't see car doors. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Curb.
Things happen.
All right, well, let me get through a few things here. Like I said, we've got Joel Van Parys on the program. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about California employment law as it relates to breweries. So those of you professionals in the crowd, pay close attention. Let me do some announcements. Brought to you today by Drake's Brewing Company. You can go to drinkdrakes.com and check them out. They were a sponsor of our Spring Brews Festival, which went wonderfully. We appreciate that. And always great events going on with their multiple locations, too. So check out drinkdrakes.com and thank them for sponsoring the Brewing Network.
Yeah, please do.
We got different merchandise on sale in the store. We're almost completely cleared out, as a matter of fact. And like I've been telling you, once we get cleared out, I'm going to get some new stuff in there. And we're real darn close. So go check it out. We got Sour Hour shirts in there. Jay's show from the Rare Barrel. Jay in Moscow do that. And a couple new Brewing Network shirts in there. And then, maybe some stragglers. So go check it out. Yes, JP.
I think the feed is still playing over the live stream.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. I did that for sure.
Oh, I'm so glad it wasn't me. I would be putting my head through the wall right about now.
What happens again when it does that? Is it going to be on my archive too?
I think it's going to be, well, I don't know. Yes, because you didn't turn the volume down. So you tell us to turn the volume down and then stop it just in case it bleeds through.
I didn't even hit the go live button on it.
Right, that's what I mean. So I don't know. We'll see. It might be. It might. No, it shouldn't because you didn't hit go live. So it should be archiving on its own. So you should be good.
Different. Was there?
Kim, you could do this.
How was the audio on the video? Did you get any notes from video people?
No, video is fine.
You sure?
Yeah, I don't have any issue.
I doubt that. This is going to be okay. Well, whatever. It was a bunch of bullshit.
Nobody has said anything on any of the video streams.
Let me just do this real quick in case we have to edit from this point.
All right.
Hey, welcome to the program. Nice to meet you all. You're listening to the session on the Brewing Network. Tonight, we've got California employment laws as they relate to breweries with Joel Van Parys on the program. Let me get to some announcements. See, that'll be fine. Then it'll be like the most cut to the point show we've ever done.
That is very clean.
So
and we'll get all that Kim shit out of there too. That's
that's really what I like about your executive decision right there. You're like editing in your head as you go.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Some call me a genius, JP.
Some
Idiots call you a genius?
Not enough.
I've never met them.
Who?
But
I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah, there's one homeless person in France going, "Oh my goodness,
he's a genius!
He's a genius! You're a genius!"
So it's like a cross between a Transylvanian and a Spanish guy. It's everybody in France.
Yeah, I want to suck your genius, which is a different person altogether. That's a gay transvestite. Never mind. Go ahead, please.
I blame YouTube for my opening screw-ups.
Genius.
Whatever. Okay, our announcements are brought to you today by Drake's Brewing Company. Go to drinkdrakes.com and check them out. We got a few pieces of merchandise left in the store. Go get that stuff. It's almost sold out, and then I'm going to get more in there for you.
Someone in the chat was like, in your response to "Some call me a genius," others call him near death.
Yeah, it was it's a close.
Good on both.
Neck and neck, man.
Very.
That's good.
All right, you can do your Amazon shopping. Just click the Amazon link on our homepage, and it's a great way to support the program. And also, you can join the BN Army by clicking the donate button on our homepage. And for as little as $2 a month, you are entered into the More Beer monthly donation giveaway, which is where we give $100 every month to one lucky donor to spend over at More Beer. So if you're a big home brewer, you're going to want to do that. And More Beer is the sponsor of this session and every session that we do. For years, the folks at More Beer have been leading the charge when it comes to cool and unique homebrewing equipment, like the RoboBrew, the easiest way to brew all grain. Made from stainless steel, the RoboBrew allows you to make 9 gallons of beer all in one vessel, from boil to mash to cooling. The RoboBrew truly is self-contained. And if you're thinking about getting into all grain, you should definitely consider the RoboBrew. Or up your fermentation game with the all-new Fermentosaurus plastic conical, also a 9-gallon capacity, stainless steel stand, sturdy butterfly dump valve at the bottom, and the best part, it'll hold up to 35 psi. So check it all out over at morebeer.com, and thank them, of course, for being a part of the Brewing Network.
Yes.
All right, get updates over on our Twitter and our Facebook and our Instagram. I might have to do some Instagramming from the road.
Oh, God.
You might have to give me access to the account.
Maybe you should just take pictures and send them to Kim.
You know what? I'm going to create a dummy account. So that way you can play around all you want.
Why do we have 4 followers on Instagram? I don't know.
I wouldn't even know how to check that. So she could tell me, wow, you're doing so great. Our numbers are going up every day. I'd be like, see? Some people call me a genius, Kim. And just keep saying it's good for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Stable genius.
You can send your feedback over to feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com. If you have show ideas, they can go there, or just whatever. Just send out all the feedback.
Really. Whatever you want to do, man.
Brewingnetwork.com.
Yeah.
Do I have a Twitter game?
We do.
Twitter game is brought to you today by Grog Tag. You know, I'm about to read this. Norman Bates said it best. A boy's best friend is his mother. And while we can't say we agree 100%, we do think that this year Mom deserves something cool and custom from GrogTag for Mother's Day. So go to grogtag.com and shop from hundreds of templates covering all kinds of products that you can modify and make your very own. From coasters of your baby pictures to beer and wine labels with last year's family reunion on them, to metal signs of her grandchildren. We have it all. They have it all. Mother's Day is on May 13th. To start creating over at grogtag.com. Use coupon code BNARMY and save 10% on your order. That's grogtag.com and coupon code BNARMY to save 10%.
You did great.
God, I was wondering where that intro was going.
You wrote that.
You got to work on your segues.
Oh,
you wrote that ad, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. As soon as I read the line, I was like, oh, okay.
I sent it to Todd, and I was like, look, this is me being super retarded, but I think it's hilarious. And he's like, yeah, whatever, dude.
They don't even read them anymore. They're like, yeah, we don't have time for this. It seems fine.
Oh, I think they're great.
Well, your examples were really good. I was like, yeah, that's really good. That's a good connection.
See, there you go.
Oh, yeah, picture of the family reunion.
Yeah.
I got a little nauseous on that family reunion thing.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Thinking of yours.
Who wants to be reminded of that?
Right. All right. What's our Twitter game?
I'm dying right now. I'm trying a new thing where I want to take a beer and I want to have everyone describe it in 5 words.
Okay.
I think it'd be fun. It's interactive. I get a lot of shit for people going, I sent all this content into the winter game and I never get picked because you're not funny. So maybe this might help everybody be a little bit funny. So describe a beer in 5 words. This one is Pliny the Elder.
Okay.
So describe Pliny the Elder to me in 5 words. And, we'll see what happens.
All right.
It might totally suck. Whatever.
That's our Twitter game.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to feedback. Feedback's brought to you today by our friend John over at the Beer Law Center. You can go to beerlawcenter.com and check it out. He can take care of your trademark like he takes care of mine. Plus, he does TTB filings, basically everything you need to do in the beer law realm. Could probably even help you with some legal employment type stuff. I don't even know. Go to beerlawcenter.com and check it out. Plus, he wrote the book on beer law.
He did.
It's called Beer Law, I think.
It is called Beer Law, you think?
So
it's called Beer Law, I think.
Yeah, that's the book I would write. Beer Law, I think. Don't do this dumb thing.
Yeah, subtitled, Someone Called Me a Genius Once.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. Amanda writes in, hello. I stumbled upon the BN this summer and have not looked back since. Nice. Trudging through the archive seems daunting, but maybe someday I'll get there. She does say, as a young aspiring homebrewer in Wisconsin, I was sorely disappointed when embarking on a short road trip and hoping for success, searched the archives for Wisconsin. Disappointment simmered when I discovered that the only Wisconsin brewery you have talked to is New Glarus. While New Glarus is our flagship brewery and a good one at that, why just them? Why not Point Brewery? Why not? And then she lists a bunch of fucking breweries.
Why not Miller?
She lists that too. She says, come on. In fact, Kim, if you'd shut your trap for a second.
Wow.
Can you mute her?
Take that to HR.
Yeah.
She says,
I am the law.
She says, come on. Wisconsin is even home to traditional favorites such as Miller, Pabst, and Sprecher Brewing, which is for root beer and soda fans, she says. Would it be so terrible for you to branch out to the Midwest? Hang on, let me try to just really engulf her.
Go for it.
Yeah, channel her.
Would it be so terrible for you to just branch out to the Midwest and head to a state that literally brought beer to the mainstream? Would that be so bad? Where would we all be without Miller and Pabst? Where, I asked.
Shit, I don't know. Probably fine because of Anheuser-Busch.
Thank you for answering.
You're welcome. Yeah, at least someone answered me. My cats don't answer me.
Making me cry over here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for writing in, Amanda. It's a fine point that you make. However, basically the way things work around here is that we often go on brewery recommendations. In fact, almost solely. The recommendations that come from us when we do the booking is when we travel to places and taste the beer ourselves. And if we find an interesting story, we bring it back. I will admit, I've never been to Wisconsin. Has anybody in here been to
I was in Milwaukee last
Bevo?
August.
Okay.
Long time ago.
Well, so you can blame Bevo and Kim. They've both been to Wisconsin. Neither one of them came back with a brewery recommendation.
I came back with cheese.
For the
Some people would not call them geniuses.
We both talked about cheese.
I accidentally went to Wisconsin
Also what
once.
they're known for.
So
he zigged when he should have zagged and ended up in fucking Wisconsin.
Ended up crossing the
thank you
river
for the
and wound
email.
up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Because it includes recommendations.
There are some recommendations.
For which I can reach out to.
So for listeners everywhere, believe it or not, even though we do like to make fun of almost everything and every place, we don't discriminate against where breweries are from. And while you may not have found a lot of Midwest breweries on our shows, it's because they haven't been placed on our radar. And we don't just go through randomly. You basically cannot get on the show without a recommendation from somebody. And then we follow up on that recommendation to find if there's a real story there. So the truth is, Amanda, I think you could blame your fellow Wisconsins for not... I don't know.
Wisconsinaholics.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah, feels right too.
For never sending in another Wisconsin recommendation other than New Glarus, and believe it or not, I'm sure you'll believe it, we've repeatedly gotten New Glarus recommended. So, we'll take a look at some of the ones you listed here. Possibly not Miller or Pabst, but who knows?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I know so little about Wisconsin, I don't even know how to spell it. So thank you to Google. Let's a shout out to Googs. Big ups to Googs.
Also
for,
genius.
And not Bing.
For auto-correcting me. It's not Wisconsin, it's Wisconsin.
Sin.
Right. And it would be a sin to not have breweries on from Wisconsin. That's how you can remember it.
I'm surprised you guys haven't gotten a recommendation for Lakefront. People lose their minds over Lakefront.
What are we talking about? Real estate? What the hell are we talking about?
It's a huge beer hall. So it's like they keep that traditional aspect, but it's everywhere. Everyone knows about them. It's packed solid all the time. I had to get a reservation to go.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's, they distribute.
Next.
They might distribute out here.
Okay. All right.
But they're one of the bigger names out there.
Okay.
All right. Well,
there you go. So, we'll look at some of these Wisconsin breweries.
Right.
And then never put them on.
Out.
All right. JR writes in.
Junior. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's J capital R.
Oh, no, he just wrote in Junior, and then that's it. Love JR.
This must be about the show while I was gone. He says, seriously, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Lullabies on the session?
Yeah.
What the F is wrong with you people?
It was not
You're gonna
terrible.
make me drink. I've grown up with you all since the beginning, and I have a kid. But for God's sake, please don't talk about kids' music or baby lullabies. One more effing lullaby talk, and I'll kill myself. And that would be a real bummer because my beer drinking days would then be over.
I wonder if this qualifies as beer as lullaby talk, because then our rest in peace, bro. Like we'll reach out. Yeah, we'll pour one out for you, homie.
Well, listen, JR, I have something to say about this too. I did tune into the program. And I was really bummed that I couldn't play along because I was doing great in my kitchen in Fort Collins.
And
I was like, I got to have JP bring back the lullaby game because I was kind of killing it over there.
There we go. All right, I'm glad.
It was a fun game.
Good. I thought it was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a good
I can
time.
see JR's point because, we've always been sort of a getaway, right?
Exactly.
From the rest. And now that some of us are growing up,
it's true.
we're like falling into the thing that people used to listen to us to get away from. So do we? I don't have the answer to this. This is rhetorical. Do we evolve as we evolve here on the program, or do we stick to our roots and just always act like the dipshit distraction? Yeah, if you have a baby, you're out unless you're Bevo.
That's right.
Shit.
I don't think we need to evolve because we've done the lullaby game. I think even as far back as in the garage.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
We've done because it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same brand or whatever. But I think we did play a version of like Metallica songs done as lullabies,
and they might be giants. I think.
Yes. So eat it, JR. And we should evolve a little bit because if we haven't, we'd be saying a lot of dick jokes and dropping some, some things. So, it's fine to grow, but I can only grow up so much. That's why I had a kid, so it can grow up for me.
Right.
And I can
surpass you.
Still be,
in like 6 weeks.
Right. Well, yeah.
All right. Well, let me do this. Our email is feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com, and I'd like to hear our listeners' viewpoint on this. As we grow up, do you want us to share those parts of our lives, or do you just still want to hear the parts where Beardy falls face first out of an Uber and knocks his teeth out? You let me know.
And it's not going to change anything. Right.
I would like to hear it.
Maybe give percentages, like 80-20. Is that what we're talking here?
Yeah. I'm not going to spend the whole show on it.
No.
Next
Why
week,
not?
baby lullabies.
Right.
All
and
right.
Their superstitions.
Right.
I don't know.
Oh, I would like that. Very superstitious. Don't shake the baby. Oh, that's just science, huh?
That's just goodwill. That's what it's like. Good baby. Habits.
It's not bad luck if you shake a baby. It's just...
what you can do instead of shaking it, spin it on your finger like a basketball. And that, my friend, is amazing fun. It's good fun. It puts them right to sleep.
Right.
Their eyes roll around a little bit and they close them, and it's a good time.
That sounds fun.
Thank you.
All right. Our next listener writes in, Dear BN Worders? BN Worders? Is it supposed to be Wonders? Because it says Worders.
Oneaters?
I think like N-word.
What?
BN-worders.
Get it?
My
now
network.
I get it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bev wrote this.
I think
Clearly.
Bev is the genius.
I didn't, but
That was so good we didn't even get it.
I'm great at word searches and word jumbles. I'm really good at them.
I'm so great at racist word jumbles.
Want to play Words with Friends?
Yeah.
that was one of those moments where, like, as I was saying that I knew what he was talking about, I was like, stop it, stop it,
You
stop
can
it.
spell Hitler however you like. I'm going to get it every time.
2 T's, 1 T, I don't care. Yeah. Let's you and me. I need to find a coder. I want to start an app called Words with White Friends.
Oh, my God.
This is Beverly. I'm a Christian. Big ups to God.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
So this listener says, I really liked the What Fest back in March.
Huh?
So he's from like Copenhagen or something. So I think there's a translation thing happening, but
I know about this festival.
Okay.
So it's called the What Fest. Yeah. I was in
Copenhagen.
Oh, God.
I would go to Copenhagen.
I was in... Okay. I can't tell if it's writing or me.
He's
It's
broken.
a combination of
probably
both.
both.
Maybe next time you could... This is just nonsense. I was in from Copenhagen, and what? Maybe next time you can turn down the volume of your cover band. Jesus effing Hitler Christ, he says.
Wow. Wait, that's a song.
Shut the F ups Kolsch seem to have a bit astringent finish, but I have not been to Cologne yet. Is he talking about your beer, Beardy?
I'm guessing.
Why am I reading this person's email?
Sounds like you can't read that person.
I thought it was funny. I don't know.
You should run it through Google Translate again, and maybe you'll get it right this time.
All right. I think he's just covering everything he's heard us say in the last 13 years into a 2-paragraph email. Now, typically I'm yelling about people writing too much. I think that he has signed off as drowning in oxidized overhopped beer in Copenhagen. DIOOHBIC. I think that you have concised it too much into one little thing. And because I can't understand. But he does say "Viva la Lager Resistance."
There you go.
I understand that. I guess.
That's right, Warren.
He sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, I love him very much. I want to adopt him as a friend.
Well, I don't think he liked your beer, Beardy. So do you still? I mean,
at the What Fest?
I assume he's talking about you.
At the What Fest.
What Fest?
I don't know.
Do you have a beer over in Copenhagen or something?
Not that I know of. Maybe he's tasting some.
Wouldn't that be great?
Gray market
That's
bullshit.
the next level, like counterfeit beer. Like a bunch of counterfeit wines. Just like Loma beer, just with like alternate labels slapped on. No, I got it right from them. Yeah, let's pour it.
Yeah, let's take it to a fest.
Yeah, for some unknown reason, so you can make $0 at it.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get
Good
to a
times.
break. Before we do that, go to NeshamineCreekBrewing.com. We love Neshaminy Creek, and they've been on the Philly Beer Map since 2012. They've taken home 4 Philly Beer Scene Magazine awards, killed it, and 3 Brewery of the Years. 2-time GABF Vienna-style lager winner, also bronze for their smoke lager. They've also got a large, expanded, and recently renovated tap room with 24 beers on tap, 18 of which are rotating and seasonable beers. Variety of beer styles from hoppy double IPAs to sessionable, poundable lagers. Man, my words today. Free brewery tours on Sunday. Check out NeshamineCreekBrewing.com. I gotta do like those exercises, like
the
warm
up,
vocal warm up.
I usually don't.
The slit I sheet, the sheet I slit.
Yeah. I'm off today. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Kim Shimke will be hosting the show while I
thought she was going to be gone. I was like, man, this is going to be a good show.
She's going to...
Sounds like Justin's going to be gone, too. So.
I'm going to be gone. Kim Shimke's going to be hosting the show. That's what I was getting at.
Oh, okay.
Get it now?
Well,
so you have to touch buttons and stuff?
Kim, I'll be your second chair. Let's go. Get in there.
Jip can handle the buttons.
Yeah, I'll push buttons all day long, dude.
There you go. Yeah, when we come back, though, we're going to be talking to Joel Van Parys about California employment laws as they relate to breweries. So you professionals, get your notebooks out. We're going to give you a little bit of education. Maybe you, too, can be a genius.
I'm stoked, man. I'm honestly stoked about it.
All right, hang in there. It's The Session. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
Are you a member of the White Labs Customer Club? If not, you should be. It's the easiest way to earn free stuff for turning in your old homebrew labels from either Vials or Pure Pitch. All you have to do is save your labels and redeem them for things like free yeast, an exclusive White Labs t-shirt or sweatshirt, and even the opportunity to brew with the yeast man himself, Chris White. Signing up is easy. Just go to whitelabs.com/customer club, fill out the registration form, and then mail in your labels. They will return the favor by sending you awesome White Labs swag. Go sign up today at whitelabs.com/customer club. White Labs, pure yeast and fermentation since 1995.
The 21st Amendment. Watch out! Do you like beer? They make beer. Watch out! Do you like friends and fun? They make friends and fun. Watch out! Do you still like to have a good time? The 21st Amendment. Watch out!
The 21st Amendment in San Francisco, located at 563 2nd Street, 2 blocks from the building where baseball is seen and played. Try their beers in the pub or try them in the can, featuring
Monk's Blood.
Made with real monk.
Watch out!
So why not have the best time of your life? Go to the 21A and Sean O'Sullivan will personally greet you with a can of
Monk's Blood. The 21st Amendment.
Watch out! This advertisement is not in any way affiliated nor associated with the 21st Amendment Bar and Pub, nor its subsidiaries or affiliates. This telecast is not copywritten by the 21st Amendment for the private use of the Brewing Network. Any use of this telecast without Jamil Zainashev's consent is prohibited. Suck it, JP.
Brewing great beer is a process of continuous learning, and the best books on every aspect of brewing can be found at Brewers Publications, with more than 50 awesome titles like Modern Homebrew Recipes by Gordon Strong, Designing Great Beers, the Ultimate Guide to Brewing Classic Beer Styles by Ray Daniels, American Sour Beers, Innovative Techniques for Mixed Fermentations by Michael Tonsmeyer, For the Love of Hops, The Practical Guide to Aroma, Bitterness, and the Culture of Hops by Stan Hieronymus, and Radical Brewing, Recipes, Tales, and World-Altering Meditations in a Glass by Randy Mosher, plus many, many more. These are the books and the authors with the knowledge to push your brewing farther than you thought possible. And you'll find them all at fine homebrew and book retailers everywhere. And visit the website at brewerspublications.com. Brewers Publications, all the best on beer and brewing.
Marin Brewing Company in Northern California has been making award-winning beers for more than 25 freaking years. Today, I want to tell you about their new 12-ounce cans of Mount Tam Pale Ale. The good stuff, Mount Tam is bright gold, 5.5% ABV to keep you feeling good, and has been winning awards since 1989. If you're visiting the Bay Area, get your butt out to Marin Brewing Company. They pour tasty beers and serve great food every day until midnight. Come in for a tour, stay for the food, and pick up a 6-pack of cans of Mount Tam Pale Ale to enjoy at home, camping, biking, or whatever the hell you do. Owner Brendan Moylan has this to say about Marin Brewing beers. It's freaking awesome! Marin Brewing has won more than 100 gold medals in international competitions. Check out marinbrewing.com for all their award-winning beers, food, and merch. Marin Brewing Company in Larkspur, California. Award-winning taste, refreshing finish. It's freaking awesome!
Taking you nowhere. Angel, come up, baby. Look at that sky, life's begun. Nights are warm and the days are young. Come up, baby. Lose my feet, they lost, that's all. Once I'm begging you, save a little soul. Come up, baby. Last night they loved you, opening doors and pulling some strings. Angel, come up, baby. Then walk luck and you looked in time. Never looked back, walk tall, act fine. Come up, baby. I'll stick with you, baby, for 1,000 years. Nothing's gonna touch you in these back down where you once belonged. In the back of a dream car, 20-foot long. Don't cry, my sweet, don't break my heart. Doing all right, we've got to get smart. Wish upon day upon day. I believe, oh Lord, I believe all the way. Run for the shadows, run for the shadows, run for the shadows in these golden years. There's my baby lost, that's all. Once I'm begging you, save a little soul. Don't let me hear you say life's taking you nowhere. Angel, come baby. Run for the shadows, run for the shadows, run for the shadows in these golden years. I'll stick with you, baby, for 1,000 years. Nothing's gonna touch you in these golden years. Golden years, yes. Golden years, golden
You're tuned into The Session.
Because life's too short to listen to crappy radio.
All right, welcome back to the program, and thanks so much for sticking with us. And thank you to White Labs for always being a supporter of the Brewing Network. They've just released a mobile app, by the way, so whether you're a home brewer searching for your next strain or a professional placing an order, White Labs mobile app has something for everyone. Key features include an easy-to-navigate ordering system, custom culture calculator to determine appropriate pitch rates, and a homebrew store locator. So check it all out. Up-to-the-minute inventory available and more. Download the new White Labs mobile app for iPhone or Android by searching White Labs in the App Store, the App Store.
That's my favorite store.
I did exercises while I was in the bathroom, and it helped. It helped a little, but.
I think it was just more of a reaction from the burning.
Well, hopefully our guest tonight has better speech than I do in tonight's program, so he can carry us through. We've got Joel Van Parys on the program. Joel, are you with us?
Yes. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. Now, I hope I'm going to say this right. Joel is from Carothers, DiSante and Freudenberger law firm.
That's right.
All right. That was pretty close there,
That's
right?
pretty good, man.
Getting that language thing figured out now.
I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah, I usually just shorten it to CDF to make it easy for everybody.
There we go. CDF. Now, Joel, you are a legal professional, a lawyer, but a legal professional in the world of employment law in California. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, Joel's here to talk to us about, as we've said, different employment laws as they relate to breweries, of course, because we're a beer show. And Joel, just so you know, just so that you don't go try feeding us any bullshit here, our social media director apparently is way overqualified because she too is a employment law professional, although not a lawyer. Do I have this right?
I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
Almost. I attended a conference.
So she attended a conference once, Joel.
I'm not a lawyer. I just sue a lot.
I'm actually a part of the CLA. I don't know how I got on that email list, but apparently I'm a member in some regard. I don't
Okay.
So you, yeah.
Well, great.
You have a
Great.
cross-checker here.
Yeah.
Way to threaten our guest
Yeah,
already.
that's great.
Justin
Thank
started
you.
it.
I did. Well, I'm just saying, you know, she Snapchats by night and does something legal during the day.
We didn't find out till today what she does.
Attends conferences.
Attends
apparently.
conferences.
Height is important.
So, Joel, could you give us a quick rundown of you know, what we might expect tonight and why some of our brewery professional listeners, you know, might be interested in what we're about to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So what we've noticed, our firm has worked with some breweries, and what we've noticed is that there are some areas that everyone needs, could use a little help on. And so, and they kind of break into three areas. One is kind of hiring and onboarding, and then there's sort of day-to-day management, and then separation from employment. And so there's kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of cradle to grave, three areas where some issues come up where, you know, breweries can get risk under California law. And frankly, you know, we like to spend our time helping people get rid of that risk so they can concentrate on making good beer that we like to drink.
Great.
So,
do you find in any of these categories that you know, breweries in particular are more at risk at maybe doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing than say your average mom and pop shop? You know, a lot of breweries are they're home brewers. They have a dream. They start out as young entrepreneurs. They just go for it. But so do tons of other small businesses. So I guess I just wonder if there's anything in particularly dangerous about, you know, the brewing industry.
Mm-hmm. I think that there is. One of the areas that we've seen that is like that is to have a policy about reasonable consumption of alcohol. So, and I know, you know, that makes people laugh right away, but you know, you can imagine, just as an example, you have a brewery and they have a tap house and they've got, you know, 10 to 15 employees, and they don't have a policy that addresses reasonable consumption of alcohol on the job. You know, it happens. And so they need to have something that addresses that point.
Okay. That's an excellent example, and I can tell already that I'm going to have some questions for you on things like that as we go. Because, and I'm just going to throw it out here now, but then I'm going to let you keep going. But as you talk about policies and things like that, I just want to sort of give one piece of advice that I was given that I found a little strange, but it made sense at the same time. And that is almost that every policy you make, you have to be very careful even then. And if you haven't had your policy vetted, if you haven't had a lawyer look at it, if you haven't set these policies legally, you're almost putting yourself in worse position than not setting policies at all. Right. If that makes sense. And that was, by the way, that piece of advice was given to me when I was looking into an employee handbook. Which we've since written, but they were like, be very careful about an employee.
Very accurate.
Okay.
You know, if you've got something that is that violates the law, it's worse to have something that violates the law than to have nothing at all. That's certainly true.
Sure. Or things, by the way, that you maybe put down in writing but didn't follow yourself as an employer.
That's the worst.
You know, and then here you are like, well, you guys are the ones that said to do this.
Right.
You know, so
yeah.
So I never wrote the handbook.
You run into that a lot, and
yeah.
And you know, that kind of goes along with being, you know, like you said, a startup, smaller type of business, because a lot of times you put some policies in place, and you know, the last thing you want to do, let's say you have a dress code, for example, or something in your tap house, and the last thing you really want to do is go around and bother people and enforce that.
Yeah.
And then you have the one employee who sort of takes it to a level beyond that's reasonable to you.
Right.
And then it's hard to do something about it because you haven't enforced it otherwise.
That's an excellent point. All right, well, why don't we dive into it and kind of this first part that you mentioned and even the hiring and onboarding of employees, which seems simple enough, right? You
fill out a thing, and then you go, you're hired, and then you show up for work the next day, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, so talk to us about give us some of the do's and don'ts here, please.
Sure. So, you know, everyone's familiar with, I just try to imagine this scenario, you know, your brewer runs into, a friend that they had from high school. Maybe they see him somewhere and you've got an open position and the guy says, oh, I'd really like to come work for you. And, you know, say, well, come by and fill out an application and we'll interview you. And so the one thing that I like to tell people right out, just some quick things not to do on the application.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask for a prior salary, and don't ask about criminal history. and don't ask for their social security number. And there are a lot of, you can go online and find sample employment applications that will have these things on there.
Right.
And so people have to be really careful about that.
Now, can I ask specifically about the criminal history point? And the reason I ask, I was told my whole life, don't get busted if you'll never get a job if you have a felony.
Right.
And now I feel like my parents were lying to me, and I could have kept selling cocaine or something. But I was worried I would never get a job. Why do people say that if you can't even ask about a criminal record?
So you can, the way that the law works right now is in that application process, you can't ask about criminal history. But once you can make an offer of employment, and you can make that contingent on a criminal background check.
I see.
But even then, the criminal background check, you have to give a series of notices to the person that you're going to do that, and then depending upon what you're looking for, what you intend to get as far as information goes, you have to explain to them what you found, and then you have to tell them if you made a decision based upon that information, and they get a chance to sort of take a look at that and say, yeah, that's not right, or you had that wrong.
Right.
And so it's a very complex process, and there's all, really, if folks are going to do that, there are third parties that can help you get, sort of step through those different notices and things.
I see.
Because if one of those little parts is wrong, then you've got, somebody has a claim against you.
And so I actually kind of like this. You're really preventing us from pre-discriminating. Because
That's right.
Because just that question, yes, I have a criminal record. I could pre-discriminate already and not know all the details. Maybe there's an asterisk next to that criminal record. Maybe something didn't actually happen. Any number of things could have happened, and it keeps me from pre-discriminating.
Yeah, and now that's exactly you sound a lot like the California legislature. That's exactly what that's what they say.
Okay.
What about knowing the previous job salary falls into that?
Yeah, so that is a new law, a relatively new law, and the idea there is that you prevent some pay discrimination from happening by preventing some people from taking a look at what the prior salary is. And if it's offered to you, if the person comes in and says, I was making $15 an hour at my last job, and so I'd really like to make that here, you don't have to cover your ears and go, no, don't tell me.
Okay.
But you just don't ask for it on the application.
Got it.
That's actually because it puts women at a disadvantage, because most women start at a lower rate for jobs. So this is exactly why this law exists, and it went into effect this year.
I see.
And same with the criminal box that you have to now leave off an application. I'm intrigued by this because I kind of sense that the more these policies and laws are happening, there's actually a lot that are taking away the rights, as I see it, of the employer. I think that discriminating against someone with a criminal background, depending on what the actual job is, you should have that right. If the job is with children and you're an employer, then I think you should be able to have that right, especially from the get-go, because then it seems like you're wasting everyone's time. Right. So if they've committed a crime, you've gone all the way through the entire recruitment, hiring process, and you make that formal offer, and then you have to go back and do that all over again because it is contingent. You can still rescind the offer once you find that out. Then how is that not wasting time? I mean, I understand why it exists, but at the same time, I see both sides, and I feel like that's kind of taking away that right from the employer.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does add a lot of time and resources. You need resources to step through all those notices and come out the other side. And really, it's more complex than that, because if you have if it comes back that the person had a felony, and you cannot just say, as the employer, you can't just say, well, they had a felony and I'm not going to hire them. You have to go through an analysis of whether or not that felony is essentially whether it really matters for the job that you're going to give them. So, if the person is going to do your books at your brewery and they had a felony because they embezzled some money at their previous employer, then that's relevant to whether or not they can do your books. If, though, it was 5 years ago and they're just going to move some kegs for you 10 hours a week, then it may not be relevant. And you have to look at those on an individual basis. And so you're definitely right. It does add, even if you don't get to that level, it adds time and cost for employers.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Joel Van Parys and getting a free legal education here about some employment laws. I think you should pay attention because this could cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. At minimum, go apply for Kim's job and get rid of her as her job.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, so what's next? And that's sort of what not to do on the application process and probably even ask in the interview process. What about when we're ready to make an offer?
So I like to tell my clients when you make an offer, and it's helpful to give the person an offer letter. You know, you kind of imagine someone going, okay, what is my job? How much am I going to make? What's my title? And you should just put those things right in the offer. You know, here's your pay, here's your title, you know, your part-time or your full-time, and what exactly that means, because, you know, a lot of people seem to think that there's a sort of a legal definition to that, but you could define that any way. You know, working part-time for your brewery, that could be 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week, well, however you'd like to define that.
Right.
And that it's an at-will position, so this is a, you know, just a legal term that essentially means that I, as the brewery owner, I can terminate you for any reason whatsoever, and you can leave the job for any reason whatsoever. And you know, we put that in the offer letter, but really, if you spent any time around, particularly in California, you know, there are lots of reasons that you couldn't terminate someone.
I know. I'm always surprised when people reiterate that it's an at-will, you know, state like that where I can fire and you can quit. Yet, and in almost the same sentence, people go, "Well, don't do that in California.
Because of wrongful termination."
You better
Right,
document
exactly.
it."
Right.
It's. I mean, I'm sure you could do a whole show on this, but isn't that the strangest thing when you, as a lawyer, have to say the words? Let's say to me as a client, you know, you can fire. The California law says you can fire at will, and your employees can quit at will. And then in the next sentence, you have to tell me all the ways maybe that I can't fire or better be careful about firing somebody.
Or take 3 months to get rid of someone.
Isn't that, can you I don't know, just even elaborate a little on that discrepancy?
Sure. So it is confusing. I think the reason I ask my clients to put at will in the offer letter is because you don't want someone claiming that their employment was for a certain term, like a year, or 3 months or something like that.
Okay.
You want to be able to say, no, it can end at any time, essentially.
Yeah.
And of course, I think there's some kind of idea that it adds into lots of folks that they don't, then they get in their head, oh, okay, well, I better, perform my job, better do a good job. I could go at any time. And so I think those are two good reasons. Mostly you don't want people thinking that it's for a term of time, but you're absolutely right. There's all sort of reasons, basically all of the reasons in the law with respect to, certainly with discrimination laws, why you couldn't get rid of someone.
But you still, you essentially would still have to prove wrongdoing by the law, right? So in other words, if I wanted to fire the lovely Kim Shimke here today.
No, sorry about that.
Is this hypothetical or real?
Yeah.
I thought just be rude and make her quit.
Fingers crossed real. Fingers crossed real.
And here's where I think it's weird. I could do it for no reason at all.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is it better be for no reason at all when it comes to something legal. So she would have to prove, well, there was a reason, and that reason was illegal. I didn't like, I discriminated against her in some way, shape, or form, or
I have a list.
or came to my decision based on something that was against the law. So in other words, it is at will as long as there truly is zero reason whatsoever. I could just say, today I'm firing you because that's what I would like to do.
Perfect.
I think that's what the law. That's what sort of the black letter of it says. But the reality is that no one gets fired for, like you said, no reason whatsoever.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I like to advise people is, you got to have a good reason. And, if that's because the person was showing up late on time, then we should be able to say that. You should be able to explain to me on the phone. If you called me and said, I really want to terminate her, and I'd say, okay, why? And you say, well, she's been late 5 times in the last week.
Right.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That's something that we can, tell a judge and a jury. This is the reason.
Because you can also, I have a friend who at their place of employment several years ago, they had someone who they let go for, at will, like, okay, we're going to let you go. And this person went to a lawyer to try to sue for wrongful termination. And the lawyer looked at the thing and said, oh, well, no, there's really no case there. But let me see your pay stubs. Let me see all this, your payment information. Then it's like, oh, well, how many breaks did you get? Like, they went and hunted for a case and ended up suing this other person's employer. And of course, the lawyers got 80% of the fee, and so they ended up getting like $2,000 or $3,000 out of the thing, and the settlement was for like $50,000. So it cost that other company $50K,
right?
Because
but there were other laws being broken.
Yeah, but it's like the break laws, which it may be something to talk about. Also, make sure your employees are getting breaks, but that's part of it too. I think to have a game plan as to a reason why you don't just fire someone because you want to.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there who will hunt and sniff out a reason to try to take you to court.
Yeah.
Even though it is an at-will state.
Right.
As a part
I think that brings up 2 things. One, like you said, it's always good to have. I tend to think that people will, even though they may be upset that you're terminating them, if you tell them, yeah, this is because you were late 5 times in the last 2 weeks, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can put that in a memo to them, and they may fight you on it when you do, and pretend that it doesn't make sense. But I think that if you're telling them something true, they realize that.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Do you have to tell them why you're firing them?
Is that
no, you don't. You don't have to. I think that it is very helpful though, because it prevents someone from doing perhaps what your friend did, right? Because if you just tell someone, I'm terminating you today, and they don't think they've done anything wrong, and you haven't explained to them, then I think they are more likely to go into an attorney's office and have the same thing happen. That's exactly what you described.
I think you're right too.
Yeah.
So in terms of wrongful termination, is the burden of proof always on the employee then? On that
side? The burden of proof is on the employee in that situation. The employee has to come forward and say, essentially, here's why I think I was terminated. And there are, lots of reasons why. It could be, discrimination or retaliation for complaining about harassment, those types of reasons. And then this is why I think it's very helpful to have thought through the reason why you're terminating someone, because then the burden can shift to you as the business owner to explain, here's why I terminated that person. And you have to be able to, it has to make sense. I mean, that's the bottom line. If we were all sitting in a room and someone told us, oh, I terminated that person because they were late 5 times in the last 2 weeks, and they never told the person, I was unhappy that you're late, you're violating our policies, or that there was any problem whatsoever, we would kind of go, well, that doesn't make sense. They never told them it was a problem.
Sure.
So that's kind of the background that happens when someone calls me and says, I'm thinking about terminating this person. We kind of go through that and figure out, okay, well, does our story make sense?
Who would have thought that we would dive into the law and actually find some clarity today rather than
Right.
This is fantastic, Joel. You're doing a great job.
Especially on this show.
Is it different with a layoff? Like if you're laying it off because you just can't afford to keep the employee, do you have to then, is there a burden of proof on you to be like, well, here's why I can't afford to pay this person?
There are some situations where, depending upon the size of the layoff, where that can happen. But in that situation too, it kind of works the same. If you can't afford, if you're downsizing a little bit and you can't afford it to have someone there, I think it's even more helpful to explain, to tell the person in your termination letter, here's the reason we're letting you go. And not only that, but I think it's important to tell them too, if business picks up, because if business picks up, I'd be happy to have you back. Because if the real reason is that you're not making as much money as you'd like and things are changing, then it's not that person, and you want to tell them that. That makes them feel better as they're going out the door.
But be upfront, because if it's that person, you're just firing them.
Right.
Well, I believe for a layoff effective this year, it's if you have 20 or more employees, you have to provide 60 days notice.
Right. So there are some complex laws related to layoffs depending upon the number of employees you have within certain sites and within geographic regions that can cause you to have to provide notice to people in a certain number of days. There's California laws and federal laws that apply to that. And so if you're having a relatively large layoff, I highly recommend you talk to an attorney about that.
Okay. And then I just want to point out real quick, just backing up for a sec about the offer letter. I have never once been given an offer letter, and I have had tons of jobs. I always thought of them as something that you get in the. If I had done something with my college degree besides drinking and talking about beer, I may have one day received an offer letter from a professional, But I've been a tire changer and a forklift driver and a bartender and a server and you name it, and never once. And I guess I'm just putting a finer point on this because you're saying that even in the brewery environment, even if you're hiring someone to drive the forklift or you're hiring someone to clean kegs, that an offer letter can offer some clarity and some protection even in those positions.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think I know it's a little bit of lift right at the beginning to put that on paper.
Yeah.
But once you do it once, you can kind of you swap in and out, and once you do it for Joe, then when you hire Matt, then you can just switch out the names. But then it's very clear what the person's job is, how much they're getting paid. There's no dispute about it.
Right.
And that's the place too. If you do want to go ahead with that criminal background check, you put it right in the letter. It's, making this offer, and it's contingent on you passing this criminal background check.
I've heard bad things about that Matt guy. Don't hire that dude. Joel's solid.
Mm-hmm.
But also, bottom line, I think it makes the employee feel good. If you're applying for a job at a brewery as a keg washer because you want to maybe get up in the ranks and it's your first job or your second job, or as we've heard many times on the show, you've left your high-paying job to be some wonk washing kegs because you want to be a professional brewer.
Yeah,
that's gonna make you feel kind of good.
I agree. It gives both parties some peace of mind.
Yeah.
So. Okay, before I have to get us to break, Joel, what about, all right, so we've gone through all of that. Let's say the offer has been accepted and we're about to bring someone on board. What do we do then?
So I like to have my clients provide the person with the job description. So I think you should have a job description for various jobs you have in your brewery, and then just meet with them and describe your expectations. Like you, I had a bunch of different jobs. I, did drywall and, worked in a pizzeria, a bunch of different things. And I never once, very rarely did the manager sit down and say, this is really what I'm looking for you to do.
Right.
But I think that's really helpful for a lot of the same reasons we've been talking about. It's just nice to have some clarity about what your job is, who your supervisor is, who they can ask questions to if they have a question about something. And then the last thing there that fits within there is just provide them with your essential policies and information. And there are some of these policies that, if you've got over 5 employees, you have to have, like a policy about discrimination and harassment.
Okay.
And there are some that you have to have even if you have 1 employee, paid sick leave, for example. And then others that are just really good ideas to have. Like we were talking about alcohol use on the job. Really good idea if you've got a brewery to have something like that.
Yeah, or a podcast at a bar.
Joel, can I just say that so far, if you and I were sitting across a desk and you were grading me as we went as an employer, and let me clarify that I'm not talking about the Hop Grenade, I'm talking about the Brewing Network, I would have a completely failing grade so far.
Well, I can tell you that that doesn't make you. I guess that makes you very much like lots of other folks in California.
Great.
back to being average. You know, I found the one thing I excelled at, and here I am back to being average.
You know, some used to call him a genius.
Right. Hey, at least he's grading you on a curve. Okay, that's pretty good. You're failing, but you're still C.
Yeah.
So good for you.
My throat's really starting to hurt, Justin.
Shut up, Bevo.
Wow.
I have a quick question about the job description. Because so
Sure.
many employers put on their other duties as assigned.
Right.
Which is like, it could mean anything.
Yeah, give me coffee.
So, I mean, I get why that's on there, but at the same time, like, I mean, I guess it would depend on the percentage, right? Of like whatever new task someone's doing that they could say like, hey, this was not part of my job. It's not what I was hired to do. And the employer could say, well, actually, you were covered under the other duties as assigned. This is what we were talking about when we said that. Like,
Yeah, from that perspective, the job description is really not supposed to define for the employee, here are the only things you'll be doing. And I think people put that on there just so that they can do stuff like, say, can you run here and get me some coffee or something like that. But it more so is to help you tell the person, here's what I'm mostly going to ask you to do. And then later, if for some reason the person isn't doing their job, you want those essential things to be on there so you can point to the job description and say, see, I told you were going to have to get me coffee, and you're really bad at that. So
terrible at
it. That's the point of having that job description.
Okay. If, for example, I have harassed Bevo...
Just for example.
Hypothetically.
For a friend.
Hypothetically.
Right.
If
Joel, Bevo is Beverly. I spoke to you earlier today.
Oh, yeah. So, you know...
We have a rapport, Justin. I just want you to know that.
If, for example, I have harassed her for years, and she has found it funny the whole time, but one day decides it's not funny anymore, and we're talking, you know, a good 13 years into it here, what would happen then? And I know I'm being I know I'm being a bit facetious, but also. Seriously, what if an employee goes along with it for a while, and then all of a sudden, and I'm not talking about, I'm talking about some inappropriate jokes or rapport, things like this, but then all of a sudden it becomes, well, now I don't like it anymore. Have you run across that, and what does happen then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what you described, I think, is not an uncommon way for things to come to my desk as litigation.
Okay.
Because I think things can happen for a long time that the person, for whatever reason, might be willing to put up with, or it doesn't actually bother them, and then things change in their life, or they get fed up, or you know, and all of a sudden it does, and then when they come and see me, it's, you know, the most recent thing that everyone can agree on that's not good.
Sure.
But then there's a long list of things that get built into that.
Okay, well, this program's over.
As is the Brewing Network.
Just kidding. Bevo's stuck with me for life no matter what, so don't worry, Joel. You're not going to get a call from her. I've blocked your number on all our phones. All right.
He just did the uncomfortable laugh. He's like,
I mean, I can make a claim on her behalf.
All right, let me do this so everybody can catch their breath. We're going to take a quick break, Joel. When we come back, maybe we can talk about some of the, now we've got an employee, and what about some of the day-to-day things that happen?
Great.
Okay. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, more with Joel, more on beer law or employment law as it relates to breweries too in California. We'll be right back. It's The Session. Hang in there.
You're listening to the Brewcasters. The Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
Your support of the Brewing Network means everything to us. We couldn't produce shows without you. And we love giving you something extra for that support, like Brew Your Own magazine. You already know it's a great brewing magazine full of recipes, equipment how-tos, discussions of beer styles, and brewing techniques. Whether you're new to brewing and just starting out, or you're an old pro, you'll always learn something from the articles in Brew Your Own. Plus, they're amazing special issues like plans for building a Brutus 10 system, 250 classic clone recipes, and the Homebrewer's Answer Book. Brew Your Own magazine and BYO.com are awesome resources for any brewer. Whether for yourself or as a gift, when you subscribe or resubscribe from the Brewing Network homepage, you directly support programs like this. Get a great magazine and support the Brewing Network. Subscribe to Brew Your Own right from thebrewingnetwork.com.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star Sand, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today. Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on 2 gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at blickmanengineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy.
This is Corey King from Side Project Brewing, and you're listening to The Session on the Brewing Network.
All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for sticking with us. This next segment is brought to you today by craftbeer.com, dedicated to telling the stories behind America's small and independent breweries. Meet the men and women behind America's beer renaissance by visiting craftbeer.com. All right, and you know that we've been talking to Joel Van Parys from CD&F. You can do that. Right?
There we go.
Right?
CDF.
Yeah, CDF. There we go. And we're talking about employment laws here in California and how they relate to breweries. And I do believe we were just about to dive into the part where we've actually hired someone, and now we're into the day-to-day stuff. What can you tell us about this part?
Yeah, so I think this is the area where you get the biggest, what I call the biggest risk areas. And those are timekeeping and meal periods and rest breaks. I also like to tell people here about performance management, and this is where the reasonable alcohol use policy can come in.
Sure.
But those 2 areas, timekeeping and meal periods and rest breaks, I think we already talked about it here. Those are the biggest areas. We see lots of cases in those areas.
And why do people mess that up? To me, that's the stuff that I don't even have to call a lawyer about. Right, because it's pretty clear in the law. In fact, I think I'm looking at it on the wall of my place of business right now. It has to be posted. So I'm being serious, Joe. Why is this such an issue here?
But can you read it?
Right.
I think it's very challenging. That's one of the things. So I had a case where the employer told all the employees, do not use your cell phones for work. I don't want you guys texting each other messages that would be helpful for when you're off the job. And someone brought a case and said, yeah, you know what, I left work, but I did a whole bunch of work that I wasn't paid for, because after I left work every day, my supervisor would text me and say, hey, did this happen? Hey, what happened here? And I responded to all those. And that can be work.
I see.
And then, you got to pay the person for all that time.
That's a good point. So you're saying
it would be a good policy to say don't text each other about work.
I think you can. I think it depends. You know, I have other clients that have decided that the horse is really out of the barn on that, and they reimburse people for their cell phone use every month because they find it to be helpful.
Yeah.
But I think that timekeeping is really hard. It's very easy for people to claim. I guess I shouldn't say timekeeping is not hard. You're right. You punch in, you punch out.
But remote timekeeping gets complex. You know, if you're not on site to punch in, it is where it gets complex.
That's right, and it's very easy for people to claim that they were working, after they clocked out, or before they clocked in every day, they got to work and had a conversation with their supervisor, and then went to their desk and clocked in.
Right.
Or we see a lot of cases where the person will say, I clocked out for my meal period, but I didn't feel like I could get all my work done, and so I just had to work through my lunch. And, because you put so much pressure on me to get my work done, I couldn't take the break. And that happens a lot, too.
Remember when you just had to work from the morning until the night, and that's just what you did?
Oh, the good old days.
I remember at Starbucks we had a lot of problems with breaks. Like as a shift supervisor, you were expected to work through your breaks. You had to break everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a tough shift and you work in the morning shift, that was our hardest. We were the busiest store in the region. So oftentimes I wouldn't be able to take my 15s or even half my lunches because I had to break everybody else because they had to go home and I was there for 8 hours or whatever. So it's super relevant, but you can't, this is the dirty secret in being that kind of middle management position, because you can't tell anybody. You can't tell the managers, or you can't tell your supervisor that that's happening because it's their fault, but they expect you to do it.
Right.
You're breaking the rules by doing it. You're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to take your break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's companies have gotten sued.
Otherwise,
over
you go back on
class action lawsuits have happened over that. I think that happened for like Cheesecake Factory recently. They had a big class action suit about that.
Joel, you could, of course, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would think. I think that some of those major lawsuits have happened since you were in that position at Starbucks. And that sort of blatant violation must be at least less common now that some of those big cases have come out. What do you think, Joel?
I think that it is, the violations are less blatant now than they were, 5, 6, 10 years ago. I think that that's true. I think people, though, they tend to want to, if you're in the middle management position like that, you tend to want to please your supervisor and get the work done. People want to do that. Yeah. And so I think, the company really has to make it clear to people, that's not what I want you to do. I appreciate you really wanting to work hard, but I do need you to take your break.
Right.
And I don't have a problem. If you told me, I'm having a tough time taking my break because of this or that, I'm going to change things so that you are able to do it, or manage the situation so that can happen for you.
What if an employee blatantly refuses? You see this a lot in the restaurant business, and they're just like, you know what? I hear you. I know it's the law. I really don't want to. I don't want to take my break. I just want to work and go home. Is it legal for an employee to say, or employer to say, okay, if that's what you'd like to do, I can't stop you?
So technically, the only thing the employer has to do is make the opportunity available for the person to take that, at least that 30-minute meal period, if they're going to work over 6 hours. So if you went to the person and you said, Joe, you've been working for 5 hours now, and here's your opportunity to take your 30-minute meal period, I've got you covered. Go ahead and take it. And Joe says, I hear you. I really don't want to do that. I'm just going to, I understand your point. I'm just going to keep working. If later Joe sued you, we would defend you and say, we told Joe he could take it. Yeah. We made it available for him to do it. We didn't violate the law. That was Joe's choice.
Right.
And that is certainly a defense to those types of claims. You can tell just from the way I set that up, that's not really that doesn't happen too often like that.
Right.
In most situations, we find that, a person is sort of, if they're abusing the meal periods, and, employers are telling folks, you got to take them just as a sort of a risk management technique.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to end up in that situation where they're getting sued for this. So they do tell employees, you need to take it, and they're not. Then it becomes a disciplinary issue because they're really violating your policy. If your policy is you take the break,
I see,
and they're not, it sounds weird, but you discipline them for violating your policy. They're not listening to you.
Sure. See, and I'm sorry to dive into this a little bit. This one is such a weird thing in the restaurant industry. I would worry, even in the example that I gave and that you answered, I've offered, hey, Joe, you can take your break. And he says, no, no, no. That there's always a defense later that says, well, yes, I said no to taking my break, but it's because I still felt pressured. Like none of my other employees took their break, so I felt like a jerk if I would take my break. There was a lot of pressure. Do you see what I mean? That it's such a weird area where it's the law to take a break, but then you have these outside forces, right? Like your peers and your coworkers not taking their break, but maybe you want to take yours.
Right, and that's why most companies that we work with, they just tell people they need to take them.
Yeah.
They schedule them and they make them take them.
Right.
And that way you avoid a situation like that, sort of peer pressure or for any reason whatsoever. You can then keep track. Oh, the person clocked out, they went on their break, they clocked back in, 30 minutes later, and that's your proof that you complied with the law.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of compliance, can we talk about kind of like performance management a little bit too, in terms of, I always wonder what kind of disciplinary actions can be taken and when they should be taken, and are they being done just so there's documentation of company policy not being followed? Can you kind of walk us through some of that when things start to go awry with an employee?
Sure. I think it's important to have a set of rules a policy and some rules about sort of rules of the road for employees. Don't falsify employment records.
It's a good one.
Theft, and don't steal our stuff.
Another good one.
Don't be insubordinate.
Right.
Not so much
that. And then if someone violates one, you kind of have to develop a feeling about when something reaches a level where you feel like you need to discipline someone, and that could be a note to them. Just saying you violated our policy. Here's exactly what you did, and here's when you did it, and talking with them about that, and that goes in their file. Versus just you've got some day-to-day performance management that could be, well, he's not exactly doing that job the best way. Let me show him how to do it the best way. That's a little bit different. If someone violates one of your policies, I think that you should do some type of written disciplinary notice to the person and sit down and tell them about it. And it's really, I think it's for a couple reasons. One being, like you said, you are going to document that. So a year later, if it's still a problem and you come to see me and you say, I'd really like to terminate this guy, and I say, okay, why? You go, well, he violated our dress code this many times, and this last one was really bad, but you don't have any notes, no paper to have documented that process.
Right.
If you imagine ourselves in front of a judge, this is what I like to, a client calls and asks, and I say, well, just imagine we're in front of the judge right now, and he says, okay, well, what happened, and explain it to me. And if it wasn't important enough for you to put down on paper and tell the person when it happened,
sure, then
it becomes much harder to tell the judge, well, this was really important to me that you violated this policy.
Right. JP, I was really upset when you weren't funny about 12 minutes ago in the program.
Well,
I've written it down on this Post-it note, and I've dated it.
Oh.
And I'm going to put it in your file.
Are you sure you wrote it down? Because it just looks like a smear of booger.
He's going to create a file, and then he's going to put that in
your
it.
file's right here next to the waste bin.
Oh, okay, great. All right.
Where I keep all your other personals.
Perfect. I appreciate that very much, the detailed location about where it is.
So warned, okay.
I'm wondering what happens if after you discipline an employee, if that employee insists on calling you daddy. Is that weird? Or not?
That actually might be harassment. Then you have another problem.
A countersuit.
Is that the employee harassing the employer?
Thank you for disciplining me, daddy.
I knew this show was like we were peaking.
That's a valid question.
I think it's a super valid
question. Joel gave you a valid answer.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I was kidding.
I was going to do the same.
No.
How about that covers sort of documenting what went wrong, but what about any kind of disciplinary action? There's suspensions. There's
write-ups,
probationary periods. That's always a weird area for me. It's like how to navigate. What are the consequences of violating some of these rules when you don't want to terminate an employee? You have a good employee who has maybe either for a first time or sometimes repeatedly violated a policy they just can't seem to get a grip on.
You're asking Joel to teach you how to be a manager.
Yeah,
I think,
of course
and that's
I am.
out of his purview. I think.
If they're a good employee, why do they keep repeatedly doing the thing that they're not supposed
Burn,
to do?
Kim,
Actually,
1 point.
You know what? It happens. I think it happens a lot, actually. You can have employees that are great at certain things and have difficulty grasping other things.
Not in this room.
Now, I'm not talking about big, giant, blatant violations that simply can't be done on a job. But there are company policies that might be a little more subtle. That employees take a little while to get a hold of.
So you're talking about a performance thing, not a deliberate act.
Yeah, more of a performance thing.
Yeah, they just don't get the job. They have trouble with
because
the job.
In fact, if it didn't happen, there wouldn't be such a thing as a write-up like Joel's talking about. It clearly happens. Otherwise, there would just be, you get terminated all the time.
You could be great at cleaning cakes, but you can't clean a fermenter for shit. So they move you back to cleaning cakes. Because you're good at it.
Yeah, and there's a whole other process that you would go through, for just to manage someone's performance. If they're not violating policies, but they're just, like you said, not doing the job well.
No, I guess I mean policies, though. I know.
Give us an example.
That's a management
concrete
thing.
Example.
Well, I just have the question, not the.
Like, how do we get JP's jokes to be better?
Well, impossible. Go ahead, Joel.
I had an example, and this could. I have an example. So there was a case I worked on where. There was a guy who didn't do his job. He didn't do his job well. He wasn't really bad. He didn't do his job well, but he would also violate various policies just from time to time. It was never the same thing, and they documented it pretty well. And they'd write him a note and say you didn't do this right, or so that's kind of one thing they did. Other times they would meet with him, just meet and then have a note to sort of. A personal file they had to say, here, I met with this guy again and he's not doing the job right, because that's kind of the first step, is just meet with the person, telling them that you violated the policy if it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And then if it's a more serious violation, you put it down on paper. And I think one thing that, because when it became litigation, one of the challenges we had is that it was sort of this low level of violation for 5 to 7 years at least, and then when he did something, they sort of got their fill of that and later wanted to terminate him, but it became really difficult because it was hard to tell a story about, well, he's been doing these low-level violations for 5 years now, and now we've just had enough.
Right.
And that's really hard to explain, sort of the straw that broke the camel's back.
His work was acceptable for a long time.
God, I hope the Brewing Network
Right.
never ends up anywhere in court for anything. Because this is like our... Well, we've all kind of sucked for periods of time. And then we kind of fixed it, but then didn't.
Right.
And we pulled it together, and then it all went to crap again.
We are the definition of slippery slope, I feel like.
Aren't we also all contractors except for Bev?
Yeah, and that's because Bev's the
That's
only
your
one I
loophole.
trust not to be litigious.
We don't get paid enough to be litigious.
You're bad.
You think we can afford lawyers?
Yeah, yeah. Joel, I have $20 an hour. Says that you can help me sue Justin
for all of my things. For all of my thing.
That's about it.
All right. Why don't we dive back into something a little more fun, which is the reasonable use of alcohol at work?
There we go.
Hey.
Let's get wasted, bros.
And this is a good one for breweries, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually surprised that it's allowed to be a reasonable use policy at all, to be honest with you. So talk to us about this one.
Well, I think it's just a recognition of the reality. If you've got, we wouldn't recommend this to any other. I had an attorney friend of mine say the only people that should have this are law firms and breweries.
Right.
But we wouldn't recommend it to anybody else.
Law
but the
firms.
reality
Selfishly.
is, if you're working, if you're working in a tap house, people have to try the product from time to time.
Yeah.
Or if you're working in a brewery and you need to try the beer to make sure things are on track, whatever it is.
Sensory panel.
Right.
Yeah, you're testing beer. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do that, and so it's just recognizing that reality. And I think when I've thought about this, and I put myself in two places, I thought, well, is it better to have a policy where I'm saying we're gonna, we allow reasonable use and then define what that means, or is it better to pretend it's not happening and just pretend that we don't know that we don't know that the guy that's serving has a drink every now and then.
Right.
I think that's a very dangerous place to be. I just you imagine yourself in a deposition and the plaintiff's attorney gets to ask you as a brewery owner, well, didn't you realize that alcohol use on the job could cause some problems? And you go, well, yeah. And then he says, well, you didn't have any rules about that, though? And that's a hard one to get out of.
Sure.
So I just think you just put rules down and tell people what reasonable use is. If it's, we're going to taste beer at this time and that's the only time you can have some. Or if it's, you're responsible to use, to consume our products reasonably, and here's what that means, one drink every such and such time, or one drink every shift, if that's what it is. Just
right.
Something to put down there.
So you're recommending even putting like a volume amount, like because throughout the day, especially in the cellar, people are taking samples, the gravity samples, and just checking. So you're saying in the handbook you could say it's okay to consume an ounce per sample taken when it's appropriate? Is that what you're recommending?
Yeah, I think for different people you'd have different type of reasonable use. That's for sure. But I think it's okay for you to say, here reasonable use for the guys serving in the tap room. Here's what that means. For our folks that are helping us develop the product, it means that you can sample, such and such amounts per hour or whatever it might be. And you don't necessarily need to go even that far, but just to say, here's the use that we approve. If it's like you said, you have to consume amounts where you're going through certain processes, then you can put that in there, that this is reasonable use includes that. And then I think the other part of this we talked about is just making sure that you enforce that, because if the guy in your tap room is over your policy and it's pretty clear, then you need to discipline him.
See, that's where and because you mentioned this earlier about enforcement, and if you don't enforce it here, we were talking about a dress code at that time, and it's kind of lax, and then all of a sudden it's gone over your lax threshold. you have a problem because you didn't enforce the rest. This would be where I'd be a little wary about actually setting volume amounts, even per position, because there are times when, okay, someone had to have about 4 ounces more for this particular tasting. Maybe it was legit, by the way. It wasn't that they were just thirsty, or this or that. So I guess in this arena, I would be more careful and even more carefully describe what it means to have a reasonable amount.
I think one that I have used as a sample before is to say that reasonable consumption means limited samples for educational purposes.
Right.
And that way, if someone does consume a certain amount, you're not standing there going, okay, I saw you consume such and such volume, because that could be fine.
Right.
It's more, are they doing it within the right purpose? Is he, did a customer come up and say, I'd really like to try this, or have you had this? And then, the next moment a customer comes up and asks the same thing, or you're sitting down and trying a product for that reason. So,
right. See,
and it could be salespeople come in and you're working with, with sales folks. So.
And everybody's look, we all read the news and we watch the TV and everyone seems to get sued for everything.
I love
and
news.
It's ridiculous. It seems ridiculous, but what you're saying there, I could see myself standing in front of a judge and the judge interpreting it the same way I wrote it. Is why I would rather not do the volumes and do that's more of a scientific approach where if I let one person have 6 ounces when the policy was 4 ounces, I have broken my own thing. But I could see standing in front of a judge and say, our policy was a reasonable amount of consumption for educational purposes. And when I, as an employer, am trying to prove that that was violated, I could really see standing in front of a reasonable judge, I would assume most of them are, and showing this person had a pint an hour with it didn't even use a tasting glass. It was about something they had a. You see what I mean? I'm not saying I'm preferring a vague consumption law. I'm preferring a more defined one that doesn't include volume.
Well, because then if it's not a defined volume, one employee could be like, well, that person could have a pint, but I had 8 ounces and maybe I got a little bit more tipsy and then got reprimanded from it. I'm drinking half as much as that guy.
But now you're leaving out the other wording. If the for educational purposes, if we're in the same example here, required the person to drink a pint, then they're within the standard. If for educational purposes they were only supposed to have 4 ounces and that wasn't a reasonable amount to provide the lesson that they were after, then the pint was in violation. I'm not talking about how much liquor they can handle. I'm talking about how much liquor we allow them to consume. Does that make sense, Joel?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point that I would hope that people take.
Because it's not about how much they can handle, Beardy. It's not about whether you're, okay, well, now you're clearly too buzzed to work. That's an issue.
Yeah.
But the policy, if you're setting it, is about, I guess you could set another policy. Now we're talking shift beers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if person A has a shift beer and they're hammered and person B has a shift beer and they're ready for 3 more, it's not a big deal. That's a grayer area, right?
Yeah, that's a judgment thing.
So a lot of salespeople will drink at their accounts because they're chit-chatting, with the owner, the beer buyer there, and they'll have a beer, and maybe they'll do like a few throughout the day. So if maybe someone in a sales position had X amount of beers, what if one day, like, they, God forbid, got a DUI or harmed someone or something? Would the employee or would the employer be liable for that? I mean, is the onus all fully on that person, or...
the tough questions from Shimke, Joel.
Whoa, burning them down the pipe, one after
the
another.
employer has a policy, and the policy is, here's a BAC meter, and you cannot drive or leave there with
But then I would imagine you would have to take some sort of measure to do that, like install one of those ones that people have in their cars.
Well, they treat them like adults. We'll supply you a meter, and you test yourself. You can't drive if you're over.
If I had clients that had salespeople driving around, and I knew that these folks are going to go to accounts and they're going to drink, that's exactly what I do. And I tell them, we provide it, and we put it in the car, and we tell them, you're not to drive unless you've passed this. And and then you define what they're permitted to do.
Right.
Differently than you would for other positions.
I would be hard, by the way, even though I know that's probably common practice, Kim, I bet we would be hard-pressed to find a brewery distributor or anything else that outlines you should, can, whatever, drink beer while you're on your route and selling this beer. I bet that is not in writing anywhere.
Probably not, but unless you specifically state that they can't, then I would still imagine that
what
you've
about
left
that,
it
Joe?
open.
So that's a weird thing. Is that a thing? If you don't say you can't, then you're still liable?
Yeah, I think that if you had no policy and you've got salespeople going around and you're sort of turning a blind eye to it, I don't know how, if the person walks out, gets in their car, which they're doing for you, drives to their next account, that's what they're doing for you, and they hit somebody.
Yeah.
You're going to be on that lawsuit.
Right.
And they're going to say, I mean, of course the person, if you knew that the person was drinking while they're going about their route, or if what you heard, you can't just really turn a blind eye to it.
Right. No, your defense is they violated the policy.
Reason to believe that's what's happening.
Great. All the brewers just turned off this podcast, right?
Yeah. And that is super common because it's a way to get into a bar and attract, like, you're not wasting a seat at the bar. So a sales rep will buy a beer so that way they can either talk to the bartender, chat them up, or wait for the GM or beer buyer or whatever.
Right.
And they're just doing it. It's a low form of pay to play, basically.
And by the way, would this hold water, Joel? It doesn't have to be the full-on, breathalyzer that allows the car to start or not.
Just
if there were company-issue breathalyzers, hey, we're acknowledging that some tasting and hopefully reasonable consumption has to happen on your route today. Here is a company-issued breathalyzer. You need to use it before you get back in the car. Does that, do you feel cover the law?
So this was, I think that's helpful. I mean, basically what you're doing here is you're trying to build some, you're trying to cover yourself for when this person does this. And so the more things you can build in there, like have a policy that says you're only supposed to reasonably use, here's what that means, here's a breathalyzer you need to have blown whatever you need to have passed to continue on your job. I mean, they cannot have guys going around who are a danger. That's just, I mean, that's
see, in this case,
that's a lot of risk waiting to happen.
It is. I agree with you. In fact, I'm surprised we haven't heard about this more. In this case, I think, Beardy, I would go with the volume route, and I would use some of the legal charts that allow. I would issue the breathalyzer. I would use the legal chart that actually, as an employee, you're supposed to look at this, look at your weight, look at your consumption, and you shouldn't have consumed more than the chart per hour. Corroborated by the breathalyzer afterward. I actually would go by volume on this one. If as Joel's saying, like, the more steps you can take to cover this one, I think it would be smart.
And even bringing it inside from the sales reps driving around. A lot of breweries have forklifts and things like that, and you have different positions using that. Not just you don't have a sober forklift guy.
No.
And so. Does that even go to having a breathalyzer, the same equipment and procedures before hopping on the forklift?
Well, I think those guys, they should, I mean, at least for the distributors where I've been, where that happens, there's just not as much availability to use. So sort of the prohibitions that you take or the steps you take have to be proportional to the person's access. And it sounds like if salespeople are out there and this is the common practice where you go into an account and you kind of have to buy a beer and you feel like you need to drink it, then you've got to be even more careful.
Yeah.
Well, also forklifts have their own license, right? So you could apply the same thing as a car.
It's not a license; it's a certification.
It's
but that's for OSHA. I think it's not really necessary to actually
drive
it.
Yeah, it's more for your insurance.
Yeah.
I see.
Even those, though, so I think where,
in a very short time, asking Joel to plan a lot for us. So I think it's great that we have all these questions. But even those, a lot of Joel's answers have been common sense. Mm-hmm. And I think even the forklift issue could be a common sense policy that you use in a brewery, which is actually there is zero consumption if you're driving a forklift today.
Yeah.
If you're, if you're on the tasting line and you've got to do some education, you fall under our reasonable consumption policy.
Sure.
If you're around heavy equipment of any kind, you're not under our reasonable consumption policy. You're under our zero consumption policy. And that could even be broken up to areas of your building, of your space. Anything on the manufacturing side, we're sorry, there will be zero tasting until the end of your shift. Or, you know what I mean? And I'm just saying, without having to consult your lawyer or Joel every 5 minutes to figure out which one, you almost could break it down like that.
Don't say that. That's how lawyers make money, right, Joel? You want your clients to consult you at every step.
Always ask Joel.
Come on, Justin.
Right. But Joel, right, like half the things you have said to us, which I have really appreciated, have come from a very common sense approach.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And like you said, that goes exactly with the type of forklift situation you're talking about. That's exactly right.
It's when we get into a lot of trouble that the common sense kind of goes out the window, and now we really need some help. So, all right. Well, Beardy had some other questions. He was asking me at the break that something that comes up quite often. I wonder if you can cover this before we have to go.
Sexting in the workplace.
Yeah. When is the appropriate time?
Not that.
In the morning.
One thing that I've heard a lot of takes on, and it seems like, well, I'm wondering if there's as big a gray area as people want there to be, is on as far as like from a production position. Is there any wiggle room as far as being hourly versus salary exempt and salary non-exempt?
Mm-hmm. So it is. It's very challenging for me to think of It is a challenging thing to have an exempt employee in California.
At all, in any industry.
I mean, unless you're. So as I think about the folks that would be working in a brewery, and particularly in a production sense, you need to. There are very specific categories, and sort of professional, for example, or management, where, and the person has to be doing that for over half of their time. Mm-hmm. So let's say you've got a manager and they have to be managing a certain number of people spending over half their time doing that, and then you have to have been paying them a salary, a pretty high salary for their job too. So there's a salary component and there's a work component, and both are difficult to meet. And when I've seen people working production, they're mostly working. They're actually doing things with their hands. Or they're overlooking something, but they're not standing back in an office and then coming back every once in a while to check that everything's being done. That's more of an exempt style position. And if it's anywhere close, like let's say you've got somebody who's a supervisor on a production line, and they're supervising the production process, and there's 3 guys that, more than that, there's 7, 8 guys that they're supervising, but that really, they really about, 60% of the time, they're kind of helping along the way. It's really hard to prove that then they've spent over half their time managing people. And it becomes, if you're anywhere close to the 50-50 line on what their duties are, it's not worth it to take that risk, because typically you're asking exempting people. The whole reason you'd have someone be exempt is because you're going to ask them to work a lot of overtime, and if it turns out that you're wrong, you made a call and they actually only spend 48% of their time on managerial duties, then you're responsible. You should have paid all of that overtime. And then it comes with penalties and on top of it, and it's very expensive. So it's sort of, I always, when I'm talking about this issue with clients, I always say, look, unless this is, I'm looking for slam dunks, because chances are it's not as good as you think it is. Like what they're doing, they're not spending as much time managing, for example, as what you think they're spending. And unless it's a slam dunk, it's a really high risk to take.
Joel, what is that minimum salary for exempt?
It's 2 times the minimum wage. So it's a salary that amounts to 2 times the minimum wage.
Well, that's a pretty low threshold.
It is.
Well, in California, that equals out to about $45,000 a year.
Okay.
Most brewery production people are not making anywhere close to $45,000 a year.
That's a good way to decide.
Higher than that? More than that?
Way less.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah.
No.
At least at my work, and we have like thousands of employees throughout the state. Misclassification is actually one of the most common cases that go to court.
Yeah.
So this is something that's like, I know people are very careful about, or try to be very careful about, but I don't think most breweries, based on my experience and friends that work at them, they don't even know that this is a thing. Like, they don't recognize that there's actual criteria that they have to look into of how to classify somebody.
Right.
So they're like, oh, we're going to save money,
Yeah.
right? We're going to like make someone exempt.
Yep.
They don't recognize that there's actual criteria that they have to follow
to fit that.
Yeah, and I you know, it's not just breweries, which is why this is such a litigation heavy topic, or particular thing for cases. But I think that's just it as breweries, is they just have no idea that this is like a real legitimate thing that they have to look into.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's more like, oh, I get to choose it, that I get it.
There are 4 different categories essentially that someone could fall into, and a couple of them it's hard for, you've got a professional person that really wouldn't apply to breweries mostly, and then you've got administrative. So this is someone kind of just sitting in a back office working on policies, for example, for you, related to all your different operations maybe. And then, you've got a managerial type exemption. And again, the thing that's really tough to meet is that they have to spend 50% of their time doing it. And you almost have to imagine someone, like if you think of something like the Flintstones and everyone's working in the rock pit and they're just kind of like standing up on the side watching, not actually doing any of the work, but just watching and telling people, yeah, do this or do that, or checking statistics to make sure things are going correctly.
I love that.
That you want to avoid. If they're doing physical labor of any kind in that process, that's a red flag.
So it's almost easier. So it's almost easier to forget about the 50% thing. You're really going for the 100% thing, because anything else you might fall into the gray area that you don't want to be in.
Well, I tend to think if someone's classified correctly, they're probably really close to, at least over 75%.
Right.
Because then when it starts to get down below, then, the risk is so great. And one thing I want to mention here too is, we've sort of mentioned in passing as a joke, but contractors too are a big issue here. My sense is a lot of breweries will say, "Come on, you can come on as a contractor, and then I'm not paying taxes, and you're not paying taxes, at least at the outset, and you don't count as an employee, so you don't have to pay comp and all that kind of thing." And right now, all forms of government are really after folks who are misclassified as contractors. So that's a tough thing to I know lots of smaller businesses, they sort of lean on that, and that's a very difficult thing to have right now is a proper classification as a contractor.
Sure. I'm pretty good at this one.
We're all contractors. You decided.
I have read this law backwards and forwards.
There we go. Okay, say it backwards.
Yeah, believe it or not, I know you guys think Justin's did that. No, I think I have looked several times at the contract law, and it's very interesting. I encourage employers to do the same, because there are times when there's a little gray area there too, and it's easy to have this common sense thing. Well, they don't do this and they don't do that. I don't require them to be here all the time, and so obviously a contractor. But I think what Joel's pointing out is there's probably about a list of 15 other things that you got to make sure check off right before you're doing that. And in the brewery setting,
In the brewery setting, I almost can't see it happening at all. I mean, one of the big things, Joel, right, is the employee required to come to your place of business at set hours of time and do work during that time for periods of time?
Yeah, I'm with you. I can see it much easier, obviously, in your environment, but when you're talking about a brewery where you're going to tell people, here's when I need you here, and here's what I want you doing, and here's how I want you doing it.
Yeah.
That's
Use my
hard
tools,
to do.
not yours.
If I'm describing a contractor to folks like in breweries or places like that, I say contractor is like the plumber that you call and say, I have a problem. Yeah. And they show up, and you don't tell the plumber how to do the job.
No, he brings his own wrench and everything. Yeah, he brings all his own tools.
I got a problem, fix it. Yeah. That's all you do.
That's why I just yell at you guys and don't actually tell you what to do.
I just tell you to check out the hook when my DJ revolves it.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I can say to my plumber, I think he's an idiot and doing it wrong too, without telling him how to do it. So, same thing. All right. Well, pay attention to your labor laws, folks. Of course, we have listeners from all over the country and in fact, the world here, so you're going to want to check these locally, too. We were focusing today on California employment laws with Joel Van Parys. And if you would like to seek his expertise further, you can go to cdflaborlaw.com. That's cdflaborlaw.com and contact them that way. And Joel, I appreciate your very clear, concise, and like, down to earth, common sense approach to this stuff. I think it was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You can check out this podcast, those of you YouTubers, over on the brewingnetwork.com. We've been streaming it there today, and get more. You can go back and take all the notes that you need, and then you could even contact Kim Shimke here, our semi-legal, illegal, not really legal employment law professional.
Just
here.
Don't name me on your lawsuit, please.
Free, non-binding advice.
Right.
Yeah. Joel,
for entertainment purposes only.
That's right. That is the time that we have today, Joel. I appreciate it so much, you being on the program. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
I hope we didn't get you in trouble, and more importantly, you didn't get us in trouble with anything here. All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. There you go. That's Joel Van Parys. Once again, you can go to cdflaborlaw.com if you'd like to seek their expertise and check it out.
And you should.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of stuff, man. Lots of stuff.
Yeah. Even if you're outside California, it's a good way to raise some topics for at least you to figure out what your situation is in your state.
No,
absolutely.
It's all relevant. Yeah. Main things I took away were communicate at every level. Communicating when you hire, while they're working, and then when you fire them, communicate.
Well, the good thing is if you adopt California law, you're basically covered for any sort of law.
Exactly. We're the high water mark.
Sure.
The thing that I got out of it was you should fire Kim Shimke.
Yeah,
right.
Let's go back to that.
I have to be careful. I have to talk to her about it. What I got out of it is that I'm not going to sleep tonight.
No.
Based on all the violations, based on my failing grade.
Yes. Well, hey, but again, average. Bell curve, baby.
Back to average.
There you go.
It's like every show. Start somewhere there, always end at average.
You got to do it.
All right, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, I think we've got some beer to try from Beardy or something.
Beardy beer?
We can if we want to.
I think JP offered up your beers for us to drink.
I mildly suggested that you have beers that we could drink that I delivered to you.
Oh, well, sure. We can talk about whose they really are.
All right, hang in there. It's The Session. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Brewcasters. The Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Check out their brand new patent-pending mash and boil 110-volt electric mashing and boiling unit. This compact all-stainless unit lets you mash, sparge, and boil just about anywhere that has a 110-volt plug. Double-wall construction adds to efficiency and safety, and a precise thermostat keeps temperatures where you want them. Unlike insulated buckets and converted coolers, multiple temperature temperature rest mashing is easy to do, all for under $300. They also feature the Mark II work pump, a magnetic drive high temperature pump that does the work of pumps that cost twice as much, as well as exclusive Brewer's Edge regulators and quality Keg King kegs and disconnects. Check them out today at williamsbrewing.com to brews their vast selection. With over 20 years of experience making world-class craft beer and more than 100 gold medals in international competitions, Moylan's Brewing Company is not just a pretty face in craft beer. Just ask Brendan Moylan.
What do we got here? The beer of the hour. Moylan's, gotta love that big M. It's like a sign of awesomeness. Woo-hoo! It's got an extra kick to it. Let's pour this bad boy. Oh, yeah. Oh, Moylan's. At the end of the night when the kids are finally in bed, the wife's in bed, nobody's bothering your ass anymore, that's Moylan's time. Moylan's is for you. Yeah. It's to help you out. Yeah. It helps me out. What? Well, because it's freaking awesome. Northern California brewed. It's brewed with love. With love? Oh, yeah. Tremendous. And it's always best where? Moylan's. You gotta try it. On tap at Moylan's in Novato. They're freaking awesome. Not only because I own the brewery, because I love the beer. Cheers. Boom.
Kilt Lifter Scotch Ale takes big beers to a whole new level with rich malt balanced perfectly with delicate hops, and now comes in 4-pack tall boy cans so you can take the party on the go. Or come to the brewery, take a tour, and try any of Moylan's fresh creations right from the source. Check them out at moylans.com.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. This is Jamel Zanishev, and I want to tell you about Heretic Evil Twin. You might be familiar with my homebrew recipe, which uses massive late hopping to create a balance between the malty sweet and the hoppy bitter, along with an outrageous malt and hop character. I wanted a beer with the same bold hop and malt character, so we played around with the homebrew recipe until we were able to make a great commercial version too. We've created a beer rich in malt character, full of caramel, toast, biscuit, and an ever so subtle roast note. On top of that, we piled in an insane amount of Citra and Columbus hops at the end of the boil, as well as in dry hopping. This damn-the-cost approach to hopping gives Heretic's Evil Twin a great blast of citrus and tropical fruit that can't be matched by any other hop. The result is a bold, malty, hoppy, but easy-drinking beer. This is our top seller, our flagship beer, and I couldn't be prouder of it. Cheers.
To find Heretic beers near you, click on Find Some at hereticbrewing.com. If you work in retail sales, the restaurant industry, or are a new craft beer enthusiast, or you know someone who is, you have got to check out Beer 101. Beer 101 is an online course created for anyone wanting a quick introduction to the vast world of craft beer. Beer 101 covers the history of beer, brewing ingredients and processes, vital stats like ABV, SRM, IBU, and gravity, styles, tasting, glassware, and pairing beer with food. The Beer 101 course is offered by the Brewers Association at craftbeer.com, also home to the truly awesome Beer Style Finder, a visual guide to every beer style. Quickly play with color, bitterness, and alcohol content to interactively explore the entire world of beer styles with a gorgeously designed interface to your favorite beverage. The new Beer 101 course and new Beer Style Finder are only available at craftbeer.com. Craftbeer.com, celebrating the best of American beer.
Counting all different ideas.
Brewcasters are back.
888-401 beer.
Whatever.
All right, welcome back to the show. Go to greatfermentations.com right now. They've got the largest catalog of Blickman products on the web, and their staff is some of the best trained in the biz using Blickman products. They offer top-notch customer service and same-day shipping on many items. Check them out at greatfermentations.com, and be sure to like them on Facebook at GR8Fermentation. You can also find them on Instagram and Twitter as GR8Fermentation. Greatfermentations.com. All right, well, that was fascinating to find out all the ways that
you're gonna get sued.
Yeah.
Once I win the lottery, I'm taking you to court, bro. But until then, hi.
Why would you do it then? You'll be set.
Just to squash.
Exactly. Yeah. I played the lottery for the first time in like 10 years.
Wow. Oh, yeah?
A couple weeks ago.
Did you win?
No.
Wow, you're really classing it up, aren't you?
Yeah. I was like, I was thinking about you guys, actually. I was standing there buying cigarettes and beer.
Aw, that's
I was
sweet.
like, the only way I could ever
I'm gonna
repay
leave them
these
behind.
guys is if I win the lottery. So I played.
Well, if you don't
That's
play, you can't
sweet
win.
and incredibly sad.
It didn't work. So
Maybe next time.
Figures.
We're rooting for you.
What are you going to do? All right. So we have some beardy beer to try. Is that what's going on here?
Well, so what this is I forget when we started
Am.
trying to do this. It's been a little bit, but we're working on working with Pico Brew to release a BN line of beers. And
That's
so,
correct, Warren.
Kits, being kits
For the
Yeah,
Pico
yeah.
C, I believe, where it'll be a all-in-one kit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you order our beer and you can brew it at home.
Yeah,
great.
And so Pico is working with both, at least JP and I, on our recipes.
It's Warren, myself, Brian from Dr. Homebrew. I have some of his beer to give away to give him in a couple of weeks for Kick Your Own Ass Ale.
Who's brewing when you guys give the recipes? Who's brewing the beer? You guys, or is Pico brewing?
Pico is they brew the beer and then they ship us samples.
Oh, cool.
And then we go, oh yeah, that tastes kind of like it, but let's tweak this out and tweak this out, and like I've
so
done.
they're working hard to get it right. That's cool.
That's
They
very
want
cool.
they absolutely want to get it right,
Yeah.
100%. And so I know Brian's working on them. I think Keith is working on one too, also on Dr. Homebrew. And I don't know who else.
Probably just you and Beardy.
And
Probably.
so the idea is that once we get the recipes dialed in, people will be able to buy the kits and throw it in their Pico C and brew the beer recipes just like we would make.
Okay. What's the difference between the Pico Brew and the Pico C?
Well, the Zymatic is basically a larger size, and you put in the grains, you put in the hops, and basically do it all yourself.
Okay.
The Pico C is a little self-contained pack.
More like a Keurig.
Yes, essentially, yeah. It's a Pico Keurig, basically.
Yeah, it's a kit. It's always a kit. Or there's probably a way you can do one manually, but it's generally a kit, right?
Yeah, for the Pico C, yeah.
Okay.
And so we're working on getting that dialed in. This is the latest version
of your beer?
Of my Kolsch recipe.
Of Kolsch, okay.
Yes.
Should I refer back to our feedback today with the...
This is not the Loma Kolsch that is very astringent, according to our Copenhagen friend.
Right.
This is based off of my homebrew recipe.
Okay.
From years ago.
Which is different than your pro brew recipe?
It's a little different. I honestly couldn't tell you how the specifics of this recipe.
Yeah.
But I know it's a different yeast strain, and the malt percentages are slightly different.
Okay.
And maybe actually IBU's a little lower on this version compared to the Loma version.
Tastes like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tastes like pizza dough.
Well,
Yeah.
so far I think it's a good Kolsch. What do you think about it, Beardy?
I think this is very close to capturing the spirit of that beer.
I see.
I agree. I agree.
In a good way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely getting there. I mean, Kolsch, I think, is kind of a hard beer to really nail down too, and I wonder how much of this beer that isn't close is fermentation.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because they're brewing tens of these kits a week. How can you have? I wonder what the fermentation chambers are and how they're dialing in each one specifically as far as fermentation, or if they're doing what I would do as a home brewer. And if I had 2 or 3 beers in my refrigerator, they would all be at the same temperature.
Right. And that's where I think we kind of got to with this beer. It's like, well, now there's just going to be subtle fermentation differences in
Well,
procedure.
that matters a lot. I mean,
it does.
When they give you a sample bottle, I'd like to see also what the fermentation profile was. You know?
Yeah. But at least with that, you can. I guess what I think I'm hearing is you're thinking the recipe is correct, and now you would just hope the consumer follows your fermentation profile to get the rest of it right.
Right, exactly. I think at this point the kit that you'll be buying might be right on.
Okay.
It's just then it's up to the individual buyer to follow the fermentation schedule.
It's essentially like a collaboration, like a long distance,
right,
commercial collaboration.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
You gotta taste taste everything and make sure and then assume that the person brewing the beer, let's say your house, you're our collaborator. Warren is collaborating with you. He gives you your recipe and all the ingredients, and you have to brew it and then ferment it.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it right? Probably not.
Right. Probably.
But I can only help you so much.
Can they send you a sample of this and you do it to your own specifications, and then you can be like, oh, okay, this is it.
Oh, I see.
Meaning, like, send me
Well,
a
now
kit?
that you feel you've dialed it in, now they send you the kit. You ferment it like you're going to instruct people to do on the package, and then you're really able to say, "Yep, we're done."
Right, because I did the fermentation.
Yeah,
and then we could actually do a 100% comparison.
You could, I guess, but I don't know if they. I mean, that's a lot. Here,
they'd have to send me a Pico C.
Take a machine
and a kit
and the thing.
Right. How many?
I'm willing to do that.
How many?
Me too.
How many back and forths did you have on this particular recipe?
This is number 3.
Oh, okay.
And so we make little tweaks each time.
Yeah.
And I think we're pretty much there.
I would hate to work with you on this, Beardy.
Well, yeah. I know it's strained a lot of relationships.
I feel like you left 6 grains of this out.
I can adjust. What's your water?
Oh my God, it would be the longest conversation.
What's your water?
I love you, Warren.
What's the
Do you have fluorescent lighting or LED lighting when it's being brewed?
What's the water?
Well, I send them a couple emails each time, and then don't get a response back. But then I just get a bottle in the mail.
What's the water?
That's how we deal.
There's
with
no
you
conversation.
Yeah.
It's a one-sided conversation.
So that's how you're gonna.
What's the
well,
water?
Whatever.
Could you tell me the sodium content of the water?
So they've grasped the shut the fuck up Beardy policy too. They just get your email.
Yeah.
Don't answer. That's their shut up, and then just send you a beer bag.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it gets better.
Happens. It is weird like that. I've experienced a very similar thing. Like I got Brian Cooper's kick your own ass sample that I have to give to him when next time we do Dr. Homebrew, whatever that is. And then I didn't expect Warren's beer to come. Because I haven't heard, because for some reason they just come to me. I'm these like proxy or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. Warren's like, oh, I had no idea we were even still doing this. Because they have so many, and they just think they just go down the line and go tick, tick, tick. Okay, now we're going to start again and readjust and do all the things. But it's, I don't expect them to like handhold.
Yeah.
Because that's not, they're not trying to do that. They want to make beer and get the kit sold so they can have people brewing the beer. It makes total sense. But it is weird. You're just like, suddenly here's beer at my front door.
I kind of like that, though. It means they're listening and then just moving forward.
Exactly, because then what are you going to do is take time? I'd rather you not email me and just do the things that we talked about.
Right.
That'd be much better.
And that's what it seems to be doing, or that's what they seem to be doing, and it's working.
Yeah.
Now, would you be able to pinpoint what about the fermentation on this sample might have been different than what you would have done?
I think the temperature schedule. I don't think this was necessarily lagered like I would do, and maybe pitched at the same rate that I would do. But that's something that you are kind of relying on the person doing the fermenting.
And they can do, which is why it's just important to get the recipe down, give instructions on Beardy's fermentation profile, and then leave it to the consumer.
Exactly, yeah. I can only do so much at that point.
Right. You're not going to go to everybody's house who buys a kit?
Well, there will be a special kit that includes
the
me
golden
coming
ticket?
to your house. Right,
includes Warren.
The bearded ticket?
Right.
It's a little ball of hair.
Yeah.
If you ever get the ball of hair, you get Beardy to come to your house.
If you get a beard hair wrapped around your yeast vial.
1 grain.
Yeah.
Put the offer in there. Who knows? You might put every kid ought to come with a coupon that says, "Hey, if you'll pay my way here, put me up at the Renaissance Inn, I'll come and brew it with you."
Or the DoubleTree.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you buy my kit and fly me to wherever you live, I will ferment your beer for you.
Same. I will have to come along because I just need to help. But then you for 8 hours can hear. What about your water? What in your water?
Oh my God! Don't start this again.
You can hear Jason's terrible impression of me.
It did go on for a while.
And then water.
All right. Hey, go to Brewers Publications, publisher of Brewing, the Brewing Elements series, a 4-part set exploring a fundamental ingredients in beer, water, malt, hops, and yeast.
Done them all.
Each book offers a detailed, specific scientific examination, practical instruction, and recipes for both homebrewers and craft brewers. Find the Brewing Elements series at brewerspublications.com. I'm giving myself worst live reads award ever tonight. God.
The chat room was quite concerned earlier that you were having a stroke.
That's stroking out. I feel like I'm stroking because I am neither. I'm not drunk. I'm not even buzzed. I had a couple beers tonight.
So it's a neurological disorder.
It's a neurological. It's something's going
You're
on.
just broken.
There are other
Have you
issues. I think I ate today.
Did you sleep yesterday night? Yesterday evening?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yesterday night, are you having a stroke?
Probably. I did not sleep yesterday night.
I'm just stroking out. It's gonna happen eventually. I was watching that Netflix. There's a Netflix comedy special with Seth Rogen. It's like for people with Alzheimer's. It's a charity comedy thing.
Okay.
And in the middle,
Yeah, I saw it.
And in the middle of the thing, they show different people with Alzheimer's. And I was watching, I was like, God, I feel like I'm just watching videos of myself later on. Like, this is what's happening to me.
See myself ending up there.
Yeah, exactly. It was I had to turn it off.
Ah, depressing, yeah.
The comedy just couldn't wrap up the depression.
Well,
I was like, here's how either I die of a heart attack or that's me one day.
Yeah.
Even with my vitamin B thing, remember?
Yeah.
The doctor was like, hey, by the way, one of the major consequences of a prolonged vitamin B deficiency is dementia later in life.
Wow.
I was like, oh, great. I'm going to be high as fuck later in life anyway if I'm alive.
Sure.
Like, I'm not talking tasty high. I'm talking heroin high. Because if I make it that far anyway... We've talked about this.
You need a good drug habit to sustain you in your mid-40s on up, dude.
If you're living in a home, or can I move into a home in my mid-40s? Does
55,
my RV count?
I think, yeah.
Moving into my RV.
Well, your home would be moving at that point. It's kind of a little wordplay there, but
And I'm sure your dementia would make great YouTube content for the
true.
BN channel.
That's true. You guys, and I won't. You guys just collect that
And you
dough.
remember, you'll just keep sending like videos of your dick.
And just shoot a video every day.
Honestly, I think it would be like Big Brother, where we'd have 24-hour cameras on you, because we can't trust you to remember how to use a tripod or set up a good shot or do anything like that. So it would just be... It would just be
like Weekend at
24 hours
Bernie's.
a day.
We'll just prop him up there.
It would probably
And we'll
be
do a voiceover.
fascinating. I figure even when I have dementia, I'm going to be highly entertaining and active. I don't think I'll just be sitting there.
Well, it's
I
the
think
first
I'll
time
be-
for everything.
Will you still be a genius,
wandering.
though?
Yeah, of course.
Even more genius.
Yeah. There'll be more people calling him a
You
genius.
can't take that away.
It only gets better.
You're
That
born.
doesn't diminish.
You're born with it. That just stays with you.
You're born with it. He was born this way, Ken. Come on.
Yeah.
Drug-induced dementia or not.
That's right. Hey, if you're looking to brew beer as good as Beardy,
Is this a positive thing?
go to beersmith.com and
There we
get your
go.
free 21-day trial of their beer brewing software. It does a great job, does everything you need it to do and more, I promise. But you also get a free 21-day trial. So Brad over there at Beersmith kind of promises too. And I think he's even working on yet another new version because he's always keeping it up to date. Great guy, great product. Go to beersmith.com and check it out.
We'll see him up in Portland, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we will see him. Who's going to the Homebrewers Conference, listeners?
Listener.
We hope we see you there. I know
I'll
Tasty
be
will
there.
be there. JP, don't worry, you'll be there. I need
Okay.
you.
All right.
If you can get the time, can you get the time away from the baby?
Oh, yeah,
Is
no,
that a
for
thing?
sure. Oh, no,
That's
not at
allowed?
all, dude.
Yeah.
Ain't no thing, bruh.
Yeah.
Last week in May, or in June. Last week in June.
No, I'm there.
Okay.
I'd rather go to CBC than Homebrew Con, but that's fine. You know, whatever.
Yeah, can't afford you.
Yeah, I know.
The only reason Shimke's going, she's paying her own way.
What a...
And you need someone to hold a camera.
Yeah, I was like, hey, since you're going,
let me put you to work. working, and you can't charge me for it.
Yeah, even Beardy's going on Loma's dime. I'm sure I'll find a place to put him to work.
Oh, I'm all booked up.
Nope.
There's a lot of hot chicken to eat, bro. I mean, I don't know if I'll have the time.
Notice I'm not like, I super want to go.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you're stuck. All right. Also, we are working on our Brewing Network anniversary party. I got a lead on a place. We got a couple proposals. They're in my inbox right now. We got to figure out. Now it's actually, I think we got it dialed in. We're just figuring how big to go for BNA 13.
Oh.
So I'll be letting you guys know soon. Pay attention to
Which
the Brewing
night?
Network
A
podcast.
Saturday night after?
It's going to be Saturday night. We're going to be the closing event. They're doing like the whole post awards reception like they did last year.
That's over like at
which is great, by the way.
something?
Yeah, I think that's over right around 6. So we're looking to start around 7 and put on maybe a little beer fest, maybe something smaller. That is a little more personal for just a couple of 200-300 people. We're figuring that out, but it does look like BNA 13 is going to happen.
Nice.
I even put it up on the HomebrewCon website.
Oh, shit.
Now it's official.
It just said TBD because I haven't figured out where yet. But
To be deleted.
It's happening, but to be
No band?
No our band. There will not be our
Four
band.
Friends and Sam will not make a... Oh. That's too bad.
No, I don't think anyone else thinks that, including our listeners.
I don't know. I would disagree. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that.
You have said that in the past, and then I can look on the faces, or even the small number of faces there watching us play.
Right.
It's a handful of people that give.
Well, a
two
handful of people
shits.
will watch because there's other things. There's beer, but I think in the having us playing in the background is kind of cool for everybody. It's just like
cool
even at like Springfest.
Yeah.
There's not everybody clowning.
No, but those are good bands.
No, I know, but I'm saying like they're not just stopping and watching the band. Not everybody.
Right.
There's still a lot of drinking to be done. So I think that's just it, but on like a lower scale.
But are any of those bands making people actually frown and make scowling faces?
Which actually surprises me because Four Friends and Sam is actually comprised of at least 2 good musicians.
Right,
Yeah,
but
me and Sam.
It only takes 2 others to ruin everything.
It's an average.
Maybe we can do a short cameo with whatever band is up there. We'll do a 2-song acoustic set or something.
I got my acoustic bass. I restrung it. Let's go. I got it.
I'll think about it.
Okay, think about it.
Bring your axe.
A lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
I have to clean my RV that day.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's right. You'll be RVing.
All right.
Exactly. All right. What's our Twitter game?
Our Twitter game is to describe Pliny the Elder in 5 words.
Okay. How
It's a game.
do people do?
They did okay. I will say that. They did all right.
All right.
Yeah. So Ramsey says his description of Pliny the Elder would be scarcity never tasted so good.
Okay.
That was pretty
get
funny.
it. Uh-huh.
Jeff Engel says it's named after some guy.
Okay.
I mean, I thought that was amusing. You go to like, oh, hey,
rim
Pliny,
shot
what's
there.
that about? It's named after some. Marcus Miller says floor stripper and it's toxic.
Oh.
Apparently not a Pliny fan.
Not a fan.
Pretty serious dig.
Okay. What's the toxic part?
I don't know, man.
Okay.
Jesse Newcomer says hiding alcoholism as a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel did that. He invented that joke.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow. Stealing jokes?
Wow.
I'm just
Too
write
bad.
that down with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, there you go. You use the sharp point with the ink comes out as the writing part.
I did. Still didn't work.
All right. Matt Cadmus says mandatory beer favorite of hipsters.
Okay.
I feel like you're issued that with your beard wax and your flannel shirt.
Yeah.
And your lawn chair for sitting in line.
Herman says pour Pliny on my hiney. Which I laughed at. I actually lolled. I kecked, if you will.
Yeah, me too.
Husker Fanboy says could be a little overrated.
Okay. That one's a little more reasonable.
Randy.
Wow, would you let everybody in?
No, only a couple more because I think they're pretty good.
Well, I've got 3. I'm trying to remember. Are you going to give me 2 more?
I know.
Randy Janita says artificial scarcity drives market demand.
It's like number one.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to write that one down. Okay.
Yeah. Ryan Turner. You don't have to write them all down. I got him. Ryan Turner says I drunk 6 tonight, even though that's 4, which I thought that was funny because he's kind of drunk. I thought it was amusing. It's clever.
Yeah.
I do like that one.
And then last but
There was
not
an apostrophe
least,
in there, wasn't there?
What's that?
Wasn't there apostrophe? That actually is 5 then, right? Technically.
No, I drunk 6 tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Lloyd McClover finally says Chechnyan Pliny is cactus pillow. I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah. So I can narrow some of them down for you, but
Yeah,
I thought it was
gotta-
at least, I should at least demonstrate the wide breadth of comedic timing and humor in our audience tonight.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to eliminate the Jimmy Kimmel one because
Which one was that? Hiding alcohol?
Stealing it.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Jesse. I'm going to block you on Twitter, too.
Copycat.
I would personally eliminate floor stripper.
Yep.
I mean, say what you
No,
like about
nothing for me.
Pliny. It's not a bad,
Yeah.
All right.
Hipsters. I don't know.
Mandatory
It's
beer,
not a
favorite of
hipster beer.
hipsters?
It's been it's been around longer than hipsters.
Let's go. Get it out here.
Okay.
I like he rhymed Pliny with Heine.
Me too.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's one of my
It's senseless. It makes no sense.
Poor Pliny on my hiney is
Yeah.
one of my favorite. I've got 2 stars next to that.
We're using the definition of description a bit loosely
Yes.
here. If
That's more commentary.
Wow. HR strikes
thank you.
again.
That'd be what a reasonable person would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds
what
like a
you and I are
non-lawyer
friends,
answer.
Warren.
Yeah,
We're the technical people.
I'm glad Fun Kim Shimke didn't show up.
What was the
Is there one?
She brings brownies that taste really good.
What was the first one about scarcity?
Yeah, that's good.
Scarcity never tasted so good.
Yeah, I like it, but it's a little boring.
Okay.
Let's get rid of
That's
it.
a great.
How about it's named after some guy?
I don't like that one.
All right, we're getting rid of that one.
I like poor Pliny on my hiney, and I like in Chechnya Pliny's cactus pillow.
What about I drunk 6 tonight?
I like that one.
I vote for that one.
Yeah.
Those are my 3.
All right, let's keep 3 in then.
All right.
So we've got Pliny on my hiney, I drunk 6 tonight, and in Chechnya Pliny's cactus pillow.
Yeah. I'm good with those, man.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to vote now.
Oh,
1,
shit.
2, 3, 4, 5. It's even.
It's not in my work clause. Was my
We're
offer
voting
letter.
on 3. This could be we have to do a tiebreaker.
6 people doing 3
We'll
votes.
find the top 2, and we'll vote again.
And then vote again. Okay, all right. I like that. Okay, if your vote is I like Pliny on my hiney, raise your hand.
I think that's just funny.
It's good.
I think it's the better of the,
I like
of
it.
the
It's
3.
not, doesn't have any
I'm
snap.
the only one.
You're the only one. So I think
I
that
nominated
one's
it,
out.
and I didn't vote for it.
Wow.
All right, that
Sorry.
one's
You
out.
straw manned me.
Sorry.
Wow.
Okay.
So now you get to vote again.
He does?
Thank
Yeah.
God.
What?
Because we were gonna eliminate. We were
Hey.
gonna pick the top 2 and then vote again.
Oh.
Tasty said
Yeah.
that, and I liked it.
This is America, Warren. I can vote as many times as I want.
Okay.
Asshole.
I guess.
All right, I'll raise my hand when I like it. Go ahead. I understand.
All right. So raise your hand if it's I drunk 6 tonight.
There's JP's
That's-
second vote.
That's everybody but me. So that's our winner
There
tonight.
you go.
All right.
Ryan Turner,
kudos.
good job, who lives at 492 West 6th Street, Cactusville, USA.
All right. Good job on that.
Good twist.
Yeah. Justin's really excited for you.
So,
Good job.
good job.
He's really rooting for you.
Yeah.
Good
Underdog.
job. Yeah, I gotta find this last read. It's this one with the Big O thing, right?
With the Big O.
Yeah. Hey, Adam and Eve is determined to help you spice things up in the bedroom, and they're backing up that promise. So you can go to adamandeve.com. You get 50% off almost any item when you enter coupon code BNARMY at checkout, and that's a good deal. But backed by popular demand and for a limited time only is the Big O kit. I'd like a report on the Big O kit one of these days.
Me too.
From one of our listeners who's
Email
ordered,
feedback at thebrewingnetwork.com.
Give us a brief description of how the Big O kit worked.
Don't
out
need
for
video.
you.
I'm going to get
But-
it, and I will write it off as a business expense.
Oh.
I volunteer as tribute.
You're gonna do it. Have you ordered from Adam
Good
and
job,
Eve
Kim.
ever yet?
Kim, you
No,
should.
but I've gone so far as going on the website and putting stuff in my cart.
Okay.
Whoa, is it? Okay.
So-
never mind.
What made you bail out?
I don't remember.
She was at
This is a
work
while
and
ago.
remember.
Yeah.
Well, it was a double-sided thing, but she had just broken up with me, so I was like,
I didn't read the
"Well."
reviews. You know, the reviews are very important.
Are
there review?
I've done the same actually, where I've gone and I like put things in the cart, and then it just seems so overwhelming because you're like, well, I've never used that before. Am I really gonna?
I'm not limber enough for that, dude.
It ends
Is
up.
that the right
Now
gauge?
that Kim volunteered and thinks it's a good
Right.
idea,
Is there a gauge chart?
I feel like we should bring up that I feel that we proposed this to her a long time
And I
ago, and she
accepted.
refused.
No, that's not
You
true.
accepted?
That's not what happened.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
I thought you weren't excited about it, but then now that it's your idea,
All right, here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to give you a budget though, but the BN is going to pay for your experience. So you got to go. You got to use coupon code BN Army.
Okay,
Right?
yeah.
You got to go in. You got to get your 50% off just about any item. You're going to get the free Big O kit, which it's a Climax gel and a mini vibrator, and then you're going to get free shipping. All right. You go to adamino.com. You use BN Army. Do all that, but your budget is like $100 because that's like $200 worth of
That's
stuff.
a lot of stuff.
Right? Put it in your next invoice to the BN.
Okay.
But you have to.
I'm the only one that
very
sees
descriptive
that.
line item.
But
Just to be clear, I'm the only one that sees that.
Yeah, I'll let the tax person figure the rest out. But you got to report back on this.
I understand that's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
Kim,
know
I
about
want-
the Big O kit,
I
and
want-
maybe the other things you use too. But I'll leave that up to you.
Do you want to shake on it? Make this legit?
Yeah.
All right.
Are we shaking on just the Big O kit, or that you'll report on all items? I'm just curious.
It's a package deal.
Okay, all items.
All right.
I want
shaking
you to
on
be
it.
very clear
saw
to
that.
know what you're getting into. Talk to Bev about it afterwards. I'm looking out for Kim. It's fine.
So
Can we call Joel back real quick?
Just so you know.
I think this will stand up in court.
Now, Kim, just for
This
instance,
is not in the scope of my work. But he'll put
we
it
don't
in
want
there.
you to be saying like, well, this looks like it could be fun. No, we want to know if it's fun.
Right.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Full report after usage.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a post-usage report.
Right. We don't want to like
on your personal experience. Now you can talk to us about the packaging. That's
Yeah,
fine.
look good. Came well.
Do an unboxing video.
It really smelled good.
Right.
I prefer different
But I want to know about the performance of it. How did it hold up? Was it able to take the punishment you gave it?
Wait, how did it hold up? So like.
Oh my God! What
Right.
is happening? Do you remember what we just talked about with our guest?
Well, it's different when you're a contractor and not an employee.
Not my employee. Now, just out of curiosity.
Oh God.
Well,
Yeah. This isn't gonna go anywhere.
I tried to help you out earlier, but
just by your estimation, will this report come back having been used with another party as well, or do you feel like you're going to come back with a solo report?
I would like to try both.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
A full report.
She's thorough,
Wow.
everyone.
You see how dedicated she is, Bevo?
Equal.
you should consider hiring her.
Last time.
Yeah, you should add her. You should make her an employee. I'll face myself out.
No, then I can't do
Next.
this.
Right, yeah.
right.
Okay.
I can't wait. You make that $300?
Get started right away. Okay.
Okay, so tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm done right now. So
Yeah, she
you know.
just hit by.
Right. What do you need now?
Adam and Eve is quick. All right, go to adamandeve.com. You can get the same deal that we just described, minus me paying for it, by using coupon code BNARMY. All right. Okay. That's good fun. Don't you think?
Good times.
Hopefully it's good for Kim.
We'll find out.
An experience is what you make it.
Oh.
See? That's a good positive attitude you got there.
That's right. You know what? They do have reviews on Adam and Eve on everything.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Including batteries. There are people. There are 270 to be exact people who have reviewed the AA batteries on Adam and Eve.
Really?
What brand does Adam and Eve sell?
Energizer.
Okay.
But if you think about it, is there many other places that batteries are oh so important? So I feel like that's a really quality sign.
Well, I think it's yes, it's good to get the batteries, but do you need to review batteries?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're batteries.
Well, they're probably
and
talking
they
about
work.
it in implementation.
Exactly.
Like, it works great in a flashlight, but in a vibrator, it doesn't work that well.
And this is important.
But that's not how batteries work.
Batteries?
Look, your phone
No.
battery.
Well, not the cheap ones.
look, your phone battery
The
dies.
ones from Japan do, but
Your mouse battery dies. No big deal. You don't get any work done for a little while.
Yeah.
Your vibrator battery
can't get any work done.
And right at the worst opportunity,
All right.
it'll ruin your whole afternoon.
Right.
Hey, man, I wouldn't.
I'm saying that makes the site even more thorough than I thought it was.
True. True.
Probably
that.
needs another 200 reviews of that AA battery.
Yeah. Now, were any of the reviews specifically just using the AA battery for its unintended use?
I didn't get that far, but a lot of it was like works like a battery should, or like didn't last long enough, and like, well, that's a party animal right there. You should probably back off a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was amusing.
Maybe they were inserting those in other orifices. Or something.
You use them as a gauge. I mean, whatever you want to do, man.
I'm gonna make sure that I'm here for Shimke's show. I'm just looking at the calendar. I'm not
you're
there
assuming
for
that she'll have
We'll
the
be on the
report
dark
ready
web
for
for
the
that
next show she's on?
Yeah, that's fast. How long is shipping? Like, what if shipping's like 3 weeks?
No, I think it's
it's faster than
Fast?
that. Yeah, they got a huge warehouse, homie. They're good.
But she also has to have to find a
We're
partner.
going to go there sometime.
You're back on the 21st.
Of what?
May.
No, I'm not.
According to my calendar.
Uh-oh. Here we go, baby.
Oh, I might even be here before that, though, I think. Oh, no, I'm gone on that date. You're right. You're right.
Justin.
So, May 21st, Kim Shimke. That's what we're hoping for
Do I
here.
have to like put this in my calendar? I have to make sure and come out that one.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Now,
I legit have to get on top of ordering the stuff like then tonight.
It's an in-studio guest. You would be here anyway.
About a month.
Yeah, it's about a month. It comes quickly, the stuff.
Hopefully not too quickly.
Well,
It
that's what you're looking for.
arrives quickly,
It's about intensity.
guys.
Here we go.
Now, do you have to go out and say, like,
Here we
find
go.
a partner
Right.
for this? Or do you already have
is there
one,
someone on deck?
lined up, Kim Shimke?
That's not the package deal that we shook on. So
But you know we always ask you.
I know, and I don't have to answer.
Oh, my God. When's the next road trip so I can ask you about all